Chapter 716. The blood-colored spear was trembling. This blood-colored spear was originally aimed at Bao Kai. It was a murderous weapon forged by Kuan Tianyu, but now it was in the hands of Su Yan. He ruthlessly nailed the Kuan Song direct disciple to the ground. Blood gushed out and dyed the void red. Immediately after, a mournful scream reverberated through the ruined mountains and rivers. Kuan Binghong was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. He hugged his head and screamed. In terms of spiritual will, Bao Cai's spiritual will was much stronger than Kuan Binghong's. The killing intent of the Divine King was not something Kuan Binghong could withstand. He felt his soul being torn apart. The ruined mountains and rivers were suffused with an austere aura. They even emitted fluctuations of fear and uneasiness. Madman Su is still alive. The people of the Kuan family couldn't help but feel fear. That person had descended from the sky, peerlessly tyrannical. He was like the young divine king who had just returned from the reincarnation cycle, overlooking the mountains and rivers. Their legs went soft, and they couldn't muster the slightest bit of courage to look at Su Yan, not to mention them. Even Zhu Yuankai's heart was surging with shock. His hair stood on end, and fear surged in his heart. That person still appeared in the end, but when he truly faced this young overlord who swallowed the starry sky, Zhu Yuankai's heart could not help but tremble. War god Su Yan, invincible, invincible. Shouts resounded through the 10 bases bathed in the flames of war. The momentum was like an avalanche, suppressing the sharpness of the Kuan family soldiers. This was the fighting spirit of the entire race. It had begun to converge because of Su Yan's appearance. In the sky above the 10 bases, a blood-colored lion soared into the sky. It raised its head and roared. It represented the wrath of Huaxia and had the divine might to overturn rivers and seas. In the 10 bases, the Kuan family soldiers were all trembling. This person used to be quite imposing, and there were few who could match him in his generation. Just his name alone was enough to frighten them, let alone now that he had appeared in the flesh with the attitude of a ruler descending upon the land. It made them feel fear in their hearts, and they didn't dare to look directly at him. In that short moment of light, the blood of the 10 major bases splattered across the sky. Too many Kuan family soldiers who had been silent in fear were killed. Xia Jinggang and the others were incomparably emotional. Without a doubt, the Kuan family's appearance made them realize Su Yan's position in the universe. That kind of deterrence. This was a scene that would frighten the enemy out of their wits. After all, the son of a supreme being that they revered, the double supreme being Shueguan, as well as an elite of the heavenly god tier, had both been killed by Su Yan. Bastard, you're still alive. The old clan master of the Kuan family, Kuan Song, was furious. This veteran divine king was definitely a top-notch divine king. Under his fury, the firmament was torn apart. His aura was too terrifying and was about to charge towards Earth. But the divine king's power was also being devoured. Earth was too mysterious. Even the divine king's power could be suppressed. Zhu Yongbua and the others wanted nothing more than to kill Su Yan right now, but they simply couldn't do so. They could only look on helplessly as Su Yan towered between heaven and earth and looked down on their disciples. Back then, Zhu Yongbua and the others had been deceived. Su Yan had always been unharmed and had even returned to the later progenitor. Roar. The dilapidated rivers and mountains were in turmoil as blood energy surged. The Bao Kai, whose claws had been pierced by the battle spear, crawled up and charged ferociously towards Kuan Binghong. Although he was limping, his ferocious might cause Kuan Binghong to tremble. He really wanted to crawl up and run away. However, the blood-colored spear had caused him serious injuries. This was a heavy killing weapon refined by the Divine King's murderous intent. It wasn't something Kuan Binghong's willpower could withstand. He felt that his spirit was about to be enslaved by the Divine King. Die! The Bao Kai roared out the anger in his heart. He pulled out the spear that was stuck in his claws. He endured the pain and ruthlessly stabbed the spear through Kuan Binghong's thigh. The soul-piercing pain came once more. Kuan Binghong simply couldn't withstand it and fainted. However, two spears refined by the Divine King's murderous intent had stimulated Kun Binghong to the point that he didn't even have the qualifications to faint. He could only howl in pain and despair. He let out a ferocious roar that caused one to shudder. Bastard! The Kuan-Song region's leader was flustered and exasperated. Kun Binghong was his favorite disciple and had already reached the divine realm. Now, his body had been pierced by Kuan Tianyu's spear, and he was nailed to the ground to suffer the purgatory judgment. Su Yan, this evil creature, Kuan Tianyu released a demonic killing intent. This scene was unbearable for him. This was his secret treasure, but now it was in the hands of the enemy and used against the young powerhouses of his Kuan family. This was truly a disgrace. Su Yan, how much longer can you live? Zhu Yongbo shouted coldly. I'll give you a chance. Bind your hands and feet, and you can let the others live. Otherwise, this ancient life star will be destroyed, and your fellows will die in agony. His cold voice spread throughout the entire Huaxiao alliance and resounded in every corner of Earth. Boom! The outer space also began to fill with world-burning anger. That was the awakening of many great figures from their deep slumber. They emitted terrifying waves of energy that filled the entire solar system. The entire Earth seemed pitifully small under this kind of power, and all of this was a kind of crushing Su Yan's essence, energy, and spirit. It lay across the Earth and was about to crush it. Above the firmament, the waves of energy that pressed down made it difficult for people to breathe. It was so oppressive that it was suffocating. Su Yan stood tall on the bloody ground. His long black hair draped over his shoulders. He was no longer calm, and his temperament had completely changed. Suddenly, some people saw a peerless god of war awakening. He stood tall between the heavens and earth, his aura swallowing the starry skies. The might he emitted caused the Kuan family soldiers to feel suffocated. Not good, he's here. This group of experts trembled. Their scalps were tingling, and their limbs weren't listening to their commands. Many of them even began to flee. They simply didn't want to face this vicious person. They were truly afraid of dying without an intact corpse. Groups of soldiers began to flee as soon as they saw Su Yan. This caused Kuan Tianyu and the others' expressions to turn gloomy. This was truly a disgrace. The Kuan family had originally returned with great momentum, but now they actually fled after seeing the leader of the buried realm race. If this person wasn't eliminated, then there would be no end to the troubles in the future. You want to run? Su Yan's eyes glowed with killing intent as he suppressed the broken river and mountain. The soldiers that were fleeing in all directions were terrified. They turned their heads around as if they saw an immortal furnace burning and emitting vast amounts of blood essence. Pum! A large area exploded on the spot. The entire ruined territory was shaken. When Su Yan released a loud roar, heaven and earth seemed to split apart. His mouth spat out golden ripples that evolved into an exceptional murderous aura that swept out in all directions. Bastard! A heavenly deity from the Kuan family roared in anger. His face was ashen. Too many people had died. Many soldiers were killed by Su Yan's roar and exploded into a bloody mist. Against such a legendary character, the Kuan family's soldiers couldn't possibly stop him. Su Yan responded to Zhu Yongbo's threats with a powerful stance. He even rushed towards Zhu Yuankai. His eyes were even more intimidating than lightning and contained a terrifying bloody aura. Don't be afraid. He can't kill you, Zhu Yongbo said coldly. Su Yan, you are digging your own grave. You are bringing a calamity to your clan. My clan's ancient ancestor is about to come into being. At that time, you won't even have time to beg for mercy. Even your clan will be destroyed because of your foolish actions. Indeed, the Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor was about to break free from the space-time storm shackles. It had to be said that this space-time storm was too astonishing. The space-time energy accumulated over countless years poured out in full force and trapped the Ancestral Hall's powerful expert, delaying him until now. However, the Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor's aura had already begun to spread to the outside world. Before long, The powerful expert would kill his way out and suppress the progenitor. Get over here. Su Yan roared in anger. His entire body was rippling with terrifying killing intent. His aura was oppressive, as if millions of mountains were arranged here. He emitted an austere aura that was even more terrifying than gods and devils. It was so oppressive that people couldn't breathe. This was especially true for Su Yan's pupils. It was as if 10,000 universes were condensed within them. Facing such a ferocious person, Zhu Yuankai's hair stood on end. His back was drenched in cold sweat. Especially Su Yan's soul-stirring gaze. It was as if it could pierce through his soul. The experience in the immortal star had completely transformed Su Yan. He now possessed the unparalleled demeanor of a peerless powerhouse. A single glance from him was enough to make one's scalp go numb. At this moment, Su Yan was like a supreme being that ruled over all living beings. So what if he was a young overlord? Zhu Yuankai felt a chill from head to toe. Only when he confronted Su Yan did he understand how terrifying this person was. That suffocating pressure made Zhu Yuankai couldn't help but roar. Under the flabbergasted gazes of the surrounding people, Zhu Yuankai ran away. He couldn't withstand Su Yan's pressure. In the fifth trial, Su Yan had stayed there for at least 100 years. He had even cultivated his inner Tao, allowing him to see through all illusions. His gaze was too sharp. Moreover, after merging with the immortal star, Su Yan had undergone a thorough baptism. He had obtained the inheritance crystal of the great Tao from an era that was even older than the most glorious era of the burial realm. Moreover, he had also been baptized by the immortal star. The current Su Yan could easily scare his enemies out of their wits. This scene caused an uproar. Zhu Yanbo looked as if he had eaten a pile of shit. His face was ugly. He roared in his heart, wishing he could chop Zhu Yuankai alive. Zhu Yuankai was his direct disciple, who had already reached the immortal realm. But because he couldn't withstand the pressure of death, he had turned around and fled. This kind of humiliation made Zhu Yangbo release a terrifying killing intent. Kneel down, and I'll spare you from death. The cold voice suddenly exploded in the ears of Zhu Yuankai, who was running away in panic. A bone-chilling killing intent approached his body. When Zhu Yuankai came back to his senses, he saw a black dragon spear pressed against his chest. And Su Yan was right in front of him. Su Yan's deep eyes bloomed with killing intent. He was a terrifying existence that looked down on the common people. His aura could swallow the heavens, and Zhu Yuankai's spirit instantly went out of control. Kneel down, Su Yan coldly shouted. His aura was even stronger. It was as if he was splitting the heavens and earth. The sun, the moon, the stars, the sea of stars. Everything seemed to be condensed in Su Yan's pupils. What did Zhu Yuankai see? The sun and moon sank in Su Yan's pupils, presenting an unimaginable projection of the immortal star. It made Zhu Yuankai tremble. His legs went soft and trembled. At this moment, he felt that he was too small. Even an ant was smaller than him. Plop! Under the dumbfounded gazes of those around him, Zhu Yuankai fell to his knees. Since he was scared out of his wits, how could he still have the will to fight? Daozu knew that Zhu Yuankai was kneeling on the ground. He felt shame, but when he wanted to crawl up, he couldn't control his body. This was a state of mental collapse. It was unbearable. He roared out in despair. I'll kill you, Zhu Yanbo roared out. By kneeling, he had ruthlessly trampled the dignity of the ancestral hall beneath his feet, trampling and trampling on it. But the one he faced was a rising star of the buried Region clan, and he was even kneeling in their second ancestral land. Bastard, why don't you just die? All of the great figures from the ancestral hall were enraged. Blood leaked out from the corners of their eyes. They couldn't bear the scene in front of them. Zhu Yuankai knelt in front of Su Yan like a believer, repenting here. He shivered and lost his will, becoming nothing more than a walking corpse. Under the light of the rising sun, Su Yan's figure seemed tall and magnificent, his aura swallowing the starry skies. Ha ha! Su Yan faced the sky and laughed. His might was boundless. His thick black hair danced in the wind. His majestic appearance was enough to intimidate ghosts and gods. Roar. Chapter 717. Su Yin was becoming more and more terrifying. He was a peerless overlord that could swallow the whole world, looking down on the common people with a majestic aura. Enlightenment on the immortal star, 100 years of accumulation, and once it bloomed, it would shock the gods. Su Yin had completely caught up and perfected his foundation. In the past, his foundation was weak, and his cultivation time was short. There was still a big gap between him and the supremes of the various peak races. However, after 100 years of enlightenment, Su Yin had completely transformed. It was equivalent to recultivating himself, blooming his accumulation of inner Tao and perfecting himself. Even if he had to face a heavenly beast again, Su Yin had the absolute confidence to fight it. This was what the old Taoist meant by catching up. If one's talent was not enough, one could still surpass it in the future. Over the years, there were always some experts who had reached the peak of Almighty Realm and looked down on the world. Aptitude and talent did not mean anything. Only an invincible Tao heart and a firm self could one day spread their wings and soar into the sky. As for this young expert from the ancestral hall, an existence who had cultivated to the immortal realm, he was now crawling and trembling in front of Su Yin. What kind of deterrent force was this? It was like a supreme being that had returned from a metamorphosis. In the end, the most terrifying thing was the 5th level of the strongest training ground. The training of the immortal star had given Su Yin the conditions to grow. In the end, he saw through all illusions, perfected his inner Tao, and passed the 5th level. The entire Huaxia Alliance was silent. Zhu Yuankai's kneeling caused the Kuan army to lose control of their morale. Countless people were scared out of their wits and fled madly, only wanting to find a place to hide. There were even people who wanted to escape from Earth. They did not want to face Su Yin ever again. Zhu Yuankai's mournful roar pierced through the sky. He was finally killed. Bao Kai grabbed the divine king's sword embryo that Zhu Yonghua had refined and raised it to cut off his head. Roar! Bao Kai let out a loud roar towards Zhu Yuankai's head, causing his head to explode. Just like that, one man and one beast stood between the heavens and the earth, filled with a terrifying fighting spirit. That was the fearless spirit of fighting spirit. The entire outer space was quiet. Great figures came one after another, their faces ashen. They couldn't say anything. They had originally thought that they could act as they pleased and suppress the entire back progenitor. But in the end, such a variable had occurred and caused them to lose a great deal of face. If news of this were to spread, how would they be able to face others? They would definitely become the laughingstock of the universe. Zhu Yonghua even wanted to take away his divine king's weapon and armor. But how could Bao Kai let him do as he wished? He had already sealed the divine king's armor and weapon with the banners of demons, blocking Zhu Yonghua's senses. All of you are courting death. One divine king after another flew into a rage, unleashing flames of fury that could incinerate mountains and boil seas. They were powerful enough to destroy native planets. But facing Earth, facing the rear progenitor of the realm of burial, this blue planet was so calm that it was frightening. It was like a great ancient god was sitting cross-legged, eternally motionless, eternally immortal, eternally shining, never withering. How can this be? The result made the divine king even angrier. They ran amok in the universe and could easily crush a native planet. But facing the rear progenitor who had yet to awaken their great Tao, they couldn't do anything to them. Unable to do anything to Hozu planet, they were enraged, especially the Kuan clan's experts. They were so frustrated that they almost coughed up blood. That was because the Kuan family's elite soldiers didn't have a good ending. Although the Kuan family didn't really care about the lives of these soldiers below the Great Tao realm, their deaths in large batches were enough to make them feel the pinch. First of all, the 10 major bases were dyed red with blood. The Huaxia Alliance rose up and launched a counterattack. They were like a hot knife through butter, killing the enemy until they threw away their armor. Even if the Kuan family still had some strength left, they were now scared out of their wits. They only wanted to escape and had completely lost their rationality. No matter how tenacious their willpower was, they were like mice meeting a cat when they faced Su Yan. They either died or fled. In short, rivers of blood flowed in the 10 major bases, and corpses piled up like mountains. Kill them, Xia Zhe and the others roared. They led the soldiers who could still move and launched an assault. They charged into the wilderness and chased after the Cohen family soldiers. None of them were spared. Someone's body was split open and blood splattered across the sky. Someone's head was twisted off and smashed into meat paste by the Huaxiao Alliance's soldiers who swarmed over. They hated these people to the core, and their methods were cruel. Some of them even started to kill their enemies to avenge their fallen brothers. Swish, swish. The most eye-catching battle started in the sky. Many soldiers were fleeing. They wanted to fly out of Earth and escape to the outer realms to seek shelter. However, the outcome was rather tragic. Su Yan drew his golden bow and stood in the air. Every time he drew his bow and shot an arrow, at least a dozen soldiers would explode in the sky. No one could escape from Su Yan's blockade. The golden bow could shoot into the sea and kill the fleeing Kuan family soldiers. In short, the current Huaxiao alliance was filled with a dense stench of blood. This was under the watchful eyes of a group of high and mighty characters. Under the fury of the divine king, the Huaxiao alliance was constantly tearing apart the Kuan family soldiers. They could only watch with their eyes wide open, unable to take any action to suppress them. This kind of mood made the divine king so depressed that he roared continuously. It was too sullen. They had never experienced such a feeling before. They had originally thought that they would be able to take down the Huaxiao alliance easily. But now, the Kuan family had suffered heavy casualties. Only a few of their 10,000 elite soldiers were left alive. Earth-shattering battle cries reverberated across the earth. On the huge battlefield, corpses were strewn all over the mountains and forests. Densely packed figures could be seen everywhere. Kill. Leave no one alive. Kill. Some generals roared. They waved their blood-stained swords and charged madly over the ruined mountains and rivers. Kill for me. The sounds of charging and shouting filled the battlefield with surging waves. With each passing moment, fewer and fewer Kuan family soldiers were still alive. It was to the extent that no one dared to escape from Earth. Su Yan was a nightmare in their hearts. There was no way they could escape. Ha ha ha! Many soldiers looked up to the sky and laughed in anger. They were all tired of killing and were shouting loudly at the bleeding heaven and earth. This one day and night was like the end of the universe to them, but they had endured it in the end. But what about the future? In short, some people felt that it was enough. They had slaughtered the Kuan family until they were like stray dogs. This was once a traitor family. Those who were still alive were trembling in fear. Some even laid down their weapons and knelt down in surrender. This bunch of trash. They can't even stop one person. Why can't they destroy a mere Su Yan? Trash, disgraceful. The Kuan-Song region was like a venomous snake. He was so angry that his heart and liver were trembling. His venomous eyes stared at Su Yan. Everything was because of him that the Kuan family had suffered such a crushing defeat and suffered such a great loss of face. The reason was that Su Yan's strength was too barbaric and abnormal. The Kuan family's soldiers couldn't stop him at all. Only a truly powerful young overlord would have the qualifications to contend with Su Yan. Blood rained down from the sky. The battle was nearing its end. Kuan family. Su Yan's sharp eyes looked towards the starry skies. He coldly said, "Didn't you claim to have 1,000,000 soldiers? How come there are only so few of you? And you still want to return to your homeland? Are you here to go to hell?" His voice resounded in the starry skies of the outer realms, exploding in everyone's ears. So what if he was facing the divine king and heavenly deities? Su Yan wasn't afraid at all. He was filled with a terrifying aura as he rushed into the starry skies. Su Yan's words were like a thorn that pierced into the hearts of every great figure of the Kuan family. Their hearts were dripping with blood. Their Kuan family did have 1,000,000 soldiers, but they had suffered disastrous losses in the Big Dipper Star region. They had lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Moreover, the three great domain entrances had been destroyed by the burial region's three divine king. They had also lost 100,000 soldiers. Su Yan, Kuan Tianyu's face was a little sinister. He angrily laughed and said, "As expected of the burial region's rising star, you're really bold. Do you think you are safe and sound? Let's not talk about your fate. The burial region's race was once glorious, but everything has returned to dust. The dead can fill an entire star region. I still remember that my family collected the skull of your race's Xian people. That is the skull of the divine king, the skull of a supreme being. It contains an indestructible spirit and will. It is used to forge the spirit and will of my Kuan family's younger generation." These words left Xia Zhe and the others dumbfounded. Their race was once glorious and prosperous in the universe. I am looking forward to seeing the other Divine King's skulls, and even Su Yan's skull. Kuan Tianyu faced the sky and laughed. "Ha! How long can your race last? Take this planet, for example. I am looking forward to it turning into a planet of bones and appearing in the universe. After all, it is the final resting place of your race. It is very suitable for exhibition. When will you wake up from your dream?" Su Yan pointed at Kuan Tianyu and sneered. "If you're not convinced, then get down here. I will only use one hand. If I, Su Yan, lose, I will bind my hands and feet and let you slaughter me." These words caused an uproar. That Kuan Tianyu was a divine king. Su Yan wanted to use one hand to challenge a divine king, but did Kuan Tianyu dare? His face was so sinister that it was about to distort. Till he clenched his fists and couldn't help but want to rush to earth and tear Su Yan to pieces. "Ha ha!" Su Yan let out a long laugh that shook the starry skies. He pointed at Kuan Tianyu and sneered. "If you don't dare, then shut up. I will go to the Kuan family sooner or later. I hope I won't slaughter you like a dog when the time comes." The fury within Kuan Tianyu's body couldn't stop gushing out. The starry skies around him exploded. The divine king's aura erupted slightly with world-destroying fury. But no matter how astonishing his fury was, it couldn't suppress Earth. Boom! All of a sudden, a loud explosion rang out. A boundless and terrifying aura spread out. The vast divine might filled the entire Milky Way. The black heaven abyss finally collapsed. The aura of a supreme expert rushed out and filled the entire Milky Way. It even continued to spread throughout the starry skies. In the end, the entire galaxy couldn't withstand the might of the supreme expert and began to distort and tremble. "Your time of death has come." The big shots entrenched in the outer realms all laughed. The entire Milky Way had lost its luster after the supreme expert had escaped. What kind of terrifying power was this? Even Earth seemed insignificant before this supreme expert. Chapter 718. The aura of a supreme being has appeared once again. The Milky Way galaxy was a remote region of a universe. Of course, there were some ancient planets with life in this remote region, but there were very few experts. Those who were capable had all headed to the peak cultivation worlds. Now, the aura of a supreme being had spread throughout this region, alarming all the surrounding forces. How powerful was a supreme being? How could such a place attract a supreme being? The news even began to spread, attracting the attention of even more distant star regions. Many experts rushed over, thinking that a supreme treasure might have been born here. Otherwise, why would a supreme being come to such a place? However, the aura of the supreme being that had just awakened was boundlessly terrifying. His blood essence was vast and surging, engulfing the entire region. The supreme being was so tyrannical that ordinary people could only look up to him. Just a vast amount of blood essence in his body was enough to drown the entire Milky Way galaxy and even spread to the outer regions. Some old gods who were about to enter the ground trembled. They could vaguely see a figure towering in the middle of the Milky Way galaxy. As he breathed, the vast star regions became dim. Although his figure was somewhat blurry, one could vaguely make out his general outline. Ancestral Hall's supreme being. The experts rushing towards the Milky Way were in an uproar. It was definitely a supreme being from the ancestral hall. He had once appeared in the Big Dipper star region, and many legends and images have been widely spread. Someone let out an incredulous voice. The supreme being from the ancestral hall actually came to such a place. Why is he making such a big fuss? He's going to use force. Look at the star system ahead. It's a life-forbidden zone. There are too many space-time storms. Could it be that a supreme treasure has been unearthed? Did the supreme being from the ancestral hall barge into the life-forbidden zone and discover an incredible treasure? It's hard to say. It's really unbelievable. I didn't expect the ancestral hall to pay attention to this place. They're truly worthy of being the strongest of the top 10 peak races. Their forces are spread throughout the vast universe. A few old cultivators gathered to exchange and discuss. All of them were trembling in fear. Moreover, the universe was especially vast and prosperous. Everywhere in the cultivation world, there was a heated discussion about Su Yan's matter. After all, this place was too far away from the universe. The Supreme Being has made his move again. Great Elder, look! Hokuto had long established a stronghold here and even set up a cross-domain transmission array. I saw it long ago. The Supreme Being from the Ancestral Hall has actually come. Star Element and the rest were guarding this place, not daring to take even half a step away. They were worried that something unexpected might happen while the Hokuto experts were crossing the river. Now, the aura of a Supreme Being appeared once again. It was as if a supreme demonic lord had descended upon the starry sky and was about to swallow the entire region. Star Element's expression was solemn as he whispered, "Let's be careful. The powerful beings are too strong. They might be able to find us with a sweep of their divine sense. I wonder who from our sect has come." Calculating the time, it will take another 1 or 2 days for them to arrive. Even the interdomain teleportation array needed time. Unless it was a huge array created by a mighty figure that could cross the interstellar domain, it could only cross to this remote area of the universe in a short period of time. Let's hope nothing bad happens. Star Element muttered in his heart. Ever since the calamity in Hokuto had ended, the Big Dipper Star Lord had sent him here to monitor the situation. He suddenly had a premonition that the Ancestral Hall's operation this time was related to the Burial Realm clan, and even Su Yan. Boom! The radiance of the Ancestral Hall's Supreme Being illuminated the sea of stars as he became the world's only true god. In the region of the Supreme Being, the sea of stars trembled as the sun and moon wailed. The strong lost their luster, and the Divine King was no exception. Only the Supreme Being remained high above, as if he was the world's highest god. He overlooked the entire galaxy, and the aura he emitted was suffocating. The eyes of the Ancestral Hall's ancient ancestor finally locked onto Earth. This ancient celestial body gave him a special feeling. He felt that this celestial body wasn't as simple as it seemed on the surface. Boom! The starry sky rumbled. This was the sound left behind by the Supreme Being. Wherever he passed, he left behind a terrifying mark, and the entire Milky Way galaxy trembled. The Supreme Being had truly arrived. All life on Earth was in a state of panic. This was because the Supreme Being was too terrifying. Any strength in front of Supreme Being was like a joke. Earth could withstand the Divine King, but could it withstand the Supreme Being? Even the strongest ancient planet with life would have to exhaust the power of the entire interstellar domain to contend with the Supreme Being. However, Earth didn't have a great Tao, so it wasn't the strongest ancient planet with life. There's no suspense. Zhu Yongbua and the others stood up to welcome the arrival of the Supreme Being from the Ancestral Hall. Even if it was the strongest ancient planet with life, the Supreme Being would pay a great price to attack it since there was an ancient planet with life from the interstellar domain. Su Yan, let's see how you'll die. You can continue to jump around and fight a glorious battle. You won't have lived in vain. Now that even the Supreme Being is here, Su Yan, you'll feel endless fear and despair for your previous actions. You won't even have time to repent. One after another, The supreme beings from the ancestral hall sneered. At the same time, they were glad that the previous matter hadn't spread. After all, the personal disciple of the Divine King had knelt before Su Yan. If this were to spread, the impact would be too bad. What should we do? Bao Kai said in a dull voice. It's impossible for Earth to stop the Almighty. Can you think of a way to guide the Almighty into that dead universe? Maybe that dead universe. Perhaps that dead universe can trap the Supreme Being. Bao Cai's idea was the only way at the moment. Even Patriarch Luo Yu's remaining attack couldn't kill the Supreme Being. It would be good enough if it could kill a half-step Supreme Being. However, the dead universe in Emperor Qin's mausoleum was too difficult to deal with. Su Yan also estimated that the dead universe would pose a threat to the Supreme Being. However, the Supreme Being wasn't a fool. It wouldn't be easy to lure him into the dead universe. Su Yan, why aren't you kneeling now? Kuan Tianyu shouted coldly. The Supreme Being is here. Why are you still standing there? Are you waiting to die? You're really sincere. Su Yan glanced at Kuan Tianyu and said coldly, You can't wait to make the entire Kuan family kneel before the Supreme Being. You really can't change your servile nature. Kuan Tianyu's face trembled. He couldn't wait to tear Su Yan's mouth apart. The Supreme Being was about to cross into the solar system. However, in front of the stunned eyes of the extraterrestrials, Su Yan waved his hand and said, Supreme Being of the Ancestral Hall, wait outside the solar system. It's not time yet. Everyone was in an uproar. The old faces of the Kuan Song region darkened. They felt that the newborn calf wasn't afraid of the tiger. There was probably no other person in the world who dared to say such words to the Supreme Being. Stubborn Dong. Just as Kuan Tianyu spoke, Su Yan glared at him and scolded, Trash, since you don't dare to come down and fight with me. Then shut up. I'll slaughter you sooner or later. You be *starred. Kuan Tianyu was so angry that his stomach and liver hurt. His 5 orifices were about to spit out green smoke. A grand divine king had been humiliated by Su Yan again and again. Moreover, he had been called trash. Who would be able to endure that? I told you to wait. You really came at the wrong time. Su Yan's aura was completely different. He was no longer suppressing his own aura, nor was he restraining his inner Tao. When his inner Tao was truly surging, it emitted a world-shaking fluctuation. It was like a god was awakening. Su Yan's inner Tao was shining brightly. It emitted a magnificent fluctuation. If someone carefully observed Su Yan's inner Tao, it was like seeing a vast and boundless world. What was this? This was the incomplete projection of the immortal planet. It carried the endless essence of the great Tao and resounded with the sound of thousands of Taos. It was projected from Su Yan's inner Tao and illuminated Earth. When Su Yan broke through the 5th level and was about to prove the great Tao, the old Taoist asked him to stop. He asked Su Yan to take the inheritance crystal of the immortal planet and prove his Tao on Earth. The great Tao key has been formed. The rear progenitor should awaken. In the strongest trial ground, the old Taoist watched all of this. His eyes flashed with anticipation. He also wanted to know what realm the rear progenitor would transform into. Rumble. This blue planet began to emit light and heat. It was like an ancient planet with the strongest life force that had lost its color. Under Su Yan's guidance, it exploded. Immortal radiance rose and shone brightly. Earth released billions of rays of light, illuminating the entire Milky Way. It was as if it was burning, emitting a blazing light. The Milky Way seemed to have transformed into a vast and magnificent territory, erupting with blazing light, illuminating the vast starry sky around it. How can it erupt with such power? The Divine King's eyes were so bright that tears flowed out. He covered them with his hands. They couldn't see the changes on Earth at all. They only felt that Earth was infinitely terrifying and infinitely stronger. A faint supreme fluctuation spread. It was as if a weak person had suddenly turned into a supreme god. I see. Bao Kai grinned excitedly. Once Earth awakened and gave birth to the great Tao, It was equivalent to giving birth to a great Tao star in the universe. Then, during this period, Earth would receive the universe's protection and even help. Even if a mighty person attacked Earth, they would have to pay a heavy price. They might not even succeed. This was a law that belonged to the operation of the universe. If they wanted to change it, they had to go against the heavens. Boom! Earth's immortal treasure continued to awaken and erupt. It became vast and boundless. It was like a projection of the immortal planet imprinted in the sky above Earth. The immortal planet and Earth resonated with each other. With the beginning sutra as the resonance point, Su Yin was the body of the inheritance. The immortal planet seemed to have manifested. Through Su Yan's beginning sutra, it resonated with Earth's energy. At this moment, the entire Earth released an even stronger energy. Immortal mist rose, blooming with auspicious clouds, releasing peerless power. It was as if prehistory and the present were merging with each other across the long river of time. Since ancient times, the collision of the two civilizations in the long river of time and space gave birth to new crystals. It gave birth to the combination of the prehistory and the present divine devil civilization, causing Earth to awaken with unparalleled fluctuations. During this process, as Earth breathed, the vast universe, the sea of stars, the moon, the Milky Way, and all kinds of divine power flocked to Earth. Billions of auspicious clouds in the outer space, purple clouds, came from the east. Shock flashed in the eyes of the mighty person in the ancestral hall. He could vaguely see Earth turning into a blurry shadow, crossing the past and present to come to the present world. It merged with the inheritance crystals of the two civilizations and created an unprecedented ancient planet of life. It was this blurry figure that the mighty person couldn't see through. He was like the celestial emperor who once looked down on the past and the future, making the mighty person feel a chill down his spine. What was this? This was a figure that didn't exist. It wasn't real, but it made the mighty person have such thoughts. When the mighty person looked down on the common people, there was a terrifying existence that regarded the mighty person as an ant. Chapter 719. What kind of light is that? Why is it so dazzling? I can't even see the whole face, only an outline. Some deities cried out in alarm. It's not the aura of a powerful being. Under this light, even the aura of a powerful being was dispersed. What kind of energy could produce such a powerful energy source? I can feel it even from so far away. Could it be that the most powerful ancient life star was buried in the Forbidden Life Zone and was discovered by a powerful being from the ancestral hall? This matter caused an earthquake. More and more people were paying attention to it. Many old deities felt it was inconceivable. How could such a powerful change happen? What kind of opportunity was there on the other side of the Forbidden Life Zone? Since the appearance of the powerful being, things had become more and more outrageous. The awakening of Earth had made Kuan Tianyu and the others pale in comparison. How could there be such a powerful energy source? Could it be that the later progenitor had the potential to evolve into the most powerful ancient life star? Or could it be that it was evolving into the most powerful ancient life star? No matter what, the eyes of the Kuan Tsang region were red with envy. The value of this ancient life star was too terrifying. Once they obtained it, it would definitely benefit their race and allow them to continue to grow and prosper. In the future, they would rise up and reach the pinnacle. However, the powerful being from the ancestral hall was entrenched here. The Kuan family could only smile bitterly at the thought. However, the Kuan family felt that it was hard to say who would own this ancient life star in the end. It was just like the bipolar star of the past. Even the ancestral hall couldn't seize it. It belonged to the common property of the various races. The Crepe Myrtle sect was furious but didn't dare to say anything. However, Earth was different. It really had peerless potential. It was even more astonishing than the later progenitor of the past. If this matter was leaked out, then the later progenitor would become a place that all the races in the universe would fight over. I'm alive. I'm not dead yet. Earth had undergone an earth-shattering change. Due to the continuous awakening and recovery of the star, the essence of heaven and earth within Earth had increased by countless times. Moreover, during this process, it wouldn't threaten the lives of the people on Earth. On the contrary, many of the Cohen family's remnant soldiers hidden in secret caves in the sea region screamed miserably as they were blasted into ashes. Without a doubt, they weren't life forms nurtured by Earth. Once they arrived on Earth, they would definitely be suppressed. If they couldn't withstand it, they would die would be the only outcome. These remnant soldiers suffered heavy casualties, were unable to withstand this pressure. In the 10 great bases, and even in the vast wilderness. In a world that was originally littered with corpses, many of the remaining soldiers who were still struggling and lying in pools of blood, and even the cultivators who were waiting for their lives to come to an end, stood up in unison. They were alive and kicking, dancing with joy. They had survived, and their injuries had all healed. Moreover, they continued to receive the baptism of the creation materials produced by the Earth's recovery, allowing them to continue to grow stronger. The Earth was a mother body. In this era where all living things were recovering, all living things on Earth were also recovering and even growing. They would continue to become stronger because of the changes on Earth. It was just like what had happened in the Big Dipper starfield. But when a celestial body evolved into a great Tao celestial body, the significance was different. Moreover, with the changes on Earth, they had to become stronger even if they didn't want to. I broke through. Many young cultivators who were struggling on the verge of death roared. Because there were too many breakthroughs, the number of people who broke through from the divine arcana realm to the transcendence realm skyrocketed. Moreover, as time passed, the number would continue to soar. God of War Su Yan, Gu Xinghuai roared. He had also survived and stepped into the transcendence realm. When the Earth awakened just now, he could clearly feel an endless amount of divine power enveloping him. The evolution of the transcendence realm was completely imprinted in their souls, allowing them to break through. The Earth helped them break through, so it must be very perfect and astonishing. Their auras soared. It's God of War Su Yan. Look, the Huaxiao Alliance, which had suffered heavy casualties, recovered their vitality in an instant. Moreover, their vitality also soared by a large margin. They bathed in the essence of heaven and earth and improved along with the earth. They even looked excitedly at Su Yan, who was sitting cross-legged in the void. At this moment, Su Yan's boundless grandeur evolved into a great Tao domain world. It enveloped the entire earth. Every change on earth was imprinted in Su Yan's mind. The earth's awakening was initiated by him. It was the inheritance crystal he brought that collided with the earth. In the end, Su Yan obtained the evolution process of the great Tao of the universe from prehistory to the present. It could be said that the beginning sutra would become stronger. This sutra would eventually surpass the past and once again become the one and only Mother Sutra in the present world. Buzz. Su Yan's entire body burned with the light of the great Tao. His body surged with the initial power of all things, and he erupted with the divine might of the great Tao. He was like a great Tao paragon who stood at the peak of the heavens and looked down on the myriad of regions. Su Yan was not the only one. This plan had started long ago. Su Yan had madly nurtured peak transcendence realm experts for this day. Comprehending the Tao. Even transcendence realm cultivators could comprehend the Tao, the evolution of the rules, and the subsequent ascension of the great Tao domain made Xia Zhe and the others feel as if they had obtained a supreme treasure. They were immersed in the evolution process of the great Tao. Based on the intensity of the awakening of the great Tao on Earth, the number of great Tao realm experts born on Earth was definitely more than Su Yan had expected. It was very likely that a large batch of them would walk out. They were all the beneficiaries of the Earth's awakening. With the Earth's environment, it was easy to imagine how strong they would be after stepping into the great Tao domain. Roar, the shattered rivers and mountains reassembled, and their auras became dozens of times more majestic. Many living beings and wild beasts roared in excitement. They also became stronger. All the living beings on Earth would awaken as well. Hundreds of millions of residents became stronger. Just think about how shocking this number was. The entire Earth had turned into a magnificent training ground. Moreover, various spiritual herbs grew wildly, giving birth to 10,000-year-old great herbs. This was an era where all things were recovering. The barren resources that they had mined in the past were now growing wildly. In fact, even the various ore veins were giving birth to stronger ores. They would definitely give birth to divine materials. The entire Earth's celestial bodies were also rapidly expanding, and its territory continued to expand. This was the benefit of evolving into a great Tao celestial body. Once one entered this domain, the celestial bodies would be developed according to the operating environment of the past. If one wanted to become a god in the future and comprehend the chaos, one would have to head to the chaos ruins. That was the best training ground, and the great Tao celestial body was no longer suitable for them to continue growing. Hence, the universe was a place where talents gathered, and the chaos ruins were a place where experts gathered. Boom! No one expected that the first to break through would be Xia Zhe. Not only did he break through, but his solid foundation also pushed Xia Zhe to ascend to a major domain at lightning speed. His body gave birth to the light of the great Tao, filled with a feeling that was as heavy as an abyss. It was as if a huge mountain range was born. Xia Zhe comprehended the Earth Tao. This great Tao could evolve into many great Taos in the future, such as the Star Great Tao, and so on. Xia Zhe didn't disappoint. He was too steady and cultivated step by step. Now, the time was ripe. With the help of Earth's awakening, he broke through to the great Tao realm in one go. Since he had broken through, Fan Hong and the others, who had obtained the mark of a half-step mighty figure, were also very close to breaking through. Even Bao Kai was mumbling that Earth would give birth to at least 10 great Tao realm experts, and this number might even reach 20. This was thanks to Earth's awakening. If it was an ordinary planet, it would already be considered good if 20 great Tao realm experts were born in 1,000 years. What a good Earth, what a good Earth! Zhu Yangbo laughed angrily and said, "What a good burial region race. What a good burial region race. They've long planned for the revival of their race." Ha ha ha! More people in the ancestral hall were laughing angrily. That's really good. Ha ha ha! But we still found out in the end. In the end, they still have to help us. Ha ha! I didn't expect Su Yin to mess up our race back then. Now, Su Yin has become our lucky star. I'm starting to like him a little. Ha ha! I reckon that the current Su Yin really thinks that it's like the Big Dipper Star region back then, where Earth's foundation can stop the mighty figures. That's wishful thinking. If it weren't for the accident that happened to our race back then, the Big Dipper Star region would have been conquered long ago. No matter how strong Earth is, it's not the strongest ancient planet with life now. Pass down my order. We must capture Su Yin alive after the birth of the great Tao on Earth. No matter how strong Su Yin is, how can he resist the joint efforts of our ancestral hall's geniuses? Haha, if it's really impossible, let Zhu Tian come personally and let Su Yan's blood splatter the sky. That's right. We must seize the opportunity to capture Su Yin alive. The scripture he cultivates doesn't necessarily have to be in our hands. I have a feeling that Earth's awakening is closely related to Su Yin. If we can obtain the secrets within, we can perfectly control Earth. The Ancestral Hall was discussing. They even wanted Zhu Tian to come and brutally suppress Su Yin. Earth's potential made the great figures of the Ancestral Hall green with envy. This ancient planet with life was worth paying a huge price to obtain. Even when faced with the threat of the various races, they had to pay a huge price to obtain it. The people of the Kuan family had strange expressions. They also wanted to compete, but what could they use to compete with the Ancestral Hall? Now that the almighty figures of the Ancestral Hall were entrenched here, even if this ancient planet evolved into the strongest ancient planet, the almighty figures of the Ancestral Hall could still take it. Su Yan's power became more and more transcendent. His inner Tao spewed out the fire of myriad Taos. Moreover, He was absorbing the creation materials born on Earth to refine his inner Tao. During the process, Su Yan's battle constitution erupted. He had transformed into a cauldron that could bear the weight of the world. Su Yan had deduced the secret technique of the artifact building realm. His body was like the mysterious yellow cauldron of Huaxia that suppressed the rivers and mountains of the world. Su Yan's aura became heavy, majestic, vast, and magnificent. Blood boiled inside the treasure body. Myriad Daos molded Su Yan's battle constitution, causing his potential to erupt continuously. Of course, this was not the end. The world inside the cauldron was like an ancient sea of stars in chaos. There were thousands of mysterious phenomena inside. Inside the cauldron was Su Yan's inner Tao world. It carried the essence of his cultivation and the crystallization of the collision of two civilizations. It belonged to his inner Tao and was enveloped by the cauldron. Roar. Chapter 720. At the beginning of the world, all living beings were awakened. Earth's awakening had lasted for an entire day. After absorbing an immeasurable amount of universe divine energy, this blue planet had truly become majestic, illuminating the entire Milky Way. It was as if it had transformed into the Milky Way's energy source, releasing an astonishing amount of energy. Earth had truly stepped into the prosperous stage of the God-fiend civilization, giving birth to great Taos and nurturing powerful beings. All living beings on Earth had awakened under Earth's evolution this time, and their overall combat strength had soared rapidly. Just the number of Dharma Phase realm cultivators had almost exceeded 3,000, and close to 1,000 Dharma Phase realm cultivators who had reached the pinnacle of domain realm had walked out. This number was a little terrifying. Ever since Xiaze had attained his Tao, Fan Hong and the others had also attained their Tao. In just a day, 10 great Tao realm experts had walked out from Earth, and this number was still increasing. After all, Earth had given birth to great Taos and nurtured the growth of all living beings. This wasn't due to excessive enthusiasm, but due to the environment. In short, Earth's changes were too great. All sorts of resources and precious lands had been born, and everyone's cultivation continued to soar. This planet truly possessed powerful potential. In fact, during Earth's awakening process, they had all been baptized. Their bodies were resplendent, and their bloodline powers soared. A large number of cultivators who had activated the strongest bloodline awakening had also walked out overnight. This was a sign that Earth was truly about to rise up, and it was becoming increasingly powerful. These scenes caused a group of major characters in the Ancestral Palace to be incomparably envious. The huge battleships that were docked in the solar system also opened their doors. Countless soldiers and generals rushed out from within, and they were all the elites of the Ancestral Palace. Tens of thousands of elite soldiers rushed out, wearing shiny battle armor and carrying killing swords. They were extremely intimidating. They were like gods and demons from the outer realm gathering near Earth. They would descend at any moment and release their powerful combat strength to wipe out the entire planet. Now wasn't the time to attack Earth. They had to wait for Earth to finish its awakening. In fact, Earth, which had evolved a Tao star, would still be suppressed by the deity realm experts according to the awakening laws of the other indigenous planets. However, as time passed, this suppression would no longer exist. However, no one could say for sure how long this would take. It might take a few years, decades, or even 100 years. There was always a process for the awakening of indigenous planets. Although the Huaxia Alliance had given birth to many overlords of the universe, the Ancestral Palace and the others sneered. What was this group of people to the Ancestral Palace? Even if they had Su Yan, a supreme martial artist of the younger generation, overseeing it, their ancestral hall had one too. Even the Kuan family had one too. Even if Earth has become stronger, even if a large group of great Tao realm overlords have emerged, how long can Earth block us? Can Su Yan defy the heavens and block the true elites of my Ancestral Palace? The Buried Region Clan, thank you for your contribution to our clan. We will treat this ancient life star well, and make it the second ancestral land of our ancestral hall. Zhu Yangbo and the others laughed heartily. Without a doubt, the potential of Earth made them feel that it was the second ancestral land of the ancestral hall. The potential of this planet was enough to make even the Almighty jealous. It was too important for the development of a group of races. Earth's awakening was still ongoing. Every time a period of time passed, there would be cultivators who were stuck at the pinnacle of the divine, arcane realm breaking through. The entire Earth was filled with joy, and all of this was captured by Su Yan. Every change on Earth, the growth of every living creature, including the changes of every blade of grass and tree, could be captured by Su Yan. They were like picture scrolls that flashed past in his inner Tao. Su Yan merged with Earth, comprehending the entire process of Earth's evolution. He verified it with his own inner Tao and absorbed the power of the great Tao that he wanted. 1. Su Yan's inner Tao became increasingly resplendent and transparent. It was filled with pure waves and was no longer as terrifying as before. It was as if a brand new inner Tao had been born and was hidden within his flesh shell. It was resplendent and blazing. Strange phenomena appeared in his inner Tao. The sun, moon, and stars were arranged, and the sun of the universe was revealed. It was as if a condensed earth was hidden within his inner Tao. It was filled with the energy waves of the beginning of the world, the awakening of all living things, and the energy waves of the peak. Not only was his inner Tao being perfected, but it was also reaching perfection and moving towards the peak domain. That was the peak domain of the great Tao. Su Yan's body was like the universe, like a cauldron. His majesty was becoming more and more imposing because the great Tao that overflowed from his inner Tao penetrated Su Yan's body. It was as if he was bathing in the great Tao evolution liquid. His treasured body released the primordial power. Su Yan began to recultivate the primordial realm. His entire treasured body was majestic like a demon god in the sky. This was the complementation between the Tao and the body. He was reconstructing himself and transforming to become even more powerful. The bones in his body resonated, and impurities were spat out. After truly crossing this stage, Su Yan's inner Tao and body merged into one. His body was like the universe. He had cultivated to a terrifying domain and was filled with the majesty of the great Tao. In the great Tao realm, one cultivated a great Tao body and could accommodate the power of the great Tao. In the end, the two fused together and evolved into a brand new combat strength. This caused Su Yan to be filled with the terrifying aura of a demon god at all times. 1. He sat cross-legged in the void. His forehead shone, and a mark flashed. He had obtained the mark on the immortal planet. Now it was resonating with the great Tao mark on Earth. Moreover, the two types of marks converged and merged into one. However, the Tao mark that was born was faintly discernible. It was as if it was hidden in time and space and was difficult to detect. This was a brand new great Tao mark on Earth. It was like a flame of inheritance burning. It was impossible to distinguish its strength, and it looked a little illusory. Su Yan knew very well that Earth was still continuing to grow. However, Earth's future path would require a long period of precipitation to perfect. The great Tao mark he obtained was like a crystal formed by the collision of two civilizations. As for this crystal, he still needed to perfect it himself in the future. However, no matter what, Su Yan had already been recognized by Earth and had become its supreme being. He could control everything on Earth at all times. He also knew the changes on Earth like the back of his hand. Earth's evolution was coming to an end. In one day and one night, a large number of experts were born. The number of Dharma characteristic realm cultivators had broken through to 5,000. The number of peak Dharma characteristic realm cultivators was close to 2,000, and 16 great Tao realm masters were born. Su Yan believed that in the future, the number of experts would continue to soar. This was because there were more than 300 people who had stepped into the quasi-Tao realm. It was clear how much benefits Earth's awakening had brought to the people. However, Su Yan also knew that Earth's awakening had caused a huge commotion. In the future, it would definitely attract the attention of others. It would definitely experience a rather cruel battle. However, any race that rose up would have to experience countless bloodshed in order to grow. It seems like it's coming to an end. The first batch of people who escaped to Earth has made it through. Although there's a period of weakness, with Earth's current environment and the density of spiritual essence, they will be able to climb back up soon. Very good. Let the second batch directly land on Earth. I think there's no need for the almighty patriarchs to make a move to suppress the entire Earth. No matter how strong Su Yin is, even if he can block thousands of soldiers and horses, can he block the elites of the Ancestral Hall? That's right. Moreover, I've already sent a message back to the Ancestral Hall. A large number of experts will be transferred here to make the best preparations for the second ancestral land. They rejoiced that Earth was far away from the universe's prosperous cultivation world. At present, news of Earth hadn't spread at all. The Ancestral Hall had already made ample preparations for the arrival of that day. Boom! In the starry skies, large numbers of battle generals erupted. Their auras devoured rivers and mountains, and their pervasive auras merged into one. They were about to transform into a vast ocean of the great Tao that was filled with the power to suppress everything. More and more experts from the Ancestral Hall landed on Earth. They wielded great killing weapons, and their eyes were filled with killing intent. The Divine King had already given the order to slaughter the entire Earth. This was because they felt that if this race was allowed to grow, it would definitely be a threat in the future. Seal Earth, leave no one alive. We'll wait for your triumphant return. We'll reward you. The big shots of the Ancestral Hall also took action. One after another, the heavenly deities awakened and oversaw the surrounding starry skies. They had sealed the entire solar system. Once someone escaped from Earth, they would inevitably be ambushed by the divine realm experts of the Ancestral Hall. Boom! A large number of battle generals from the Ancestral Hall descended on Earth. The commotion was astonishing. Boundless great Tao energy burst forth and tore through the skies, filled with all kinds of destructive fluctuations. Although they had encountered the suppression of Earth, each and every one of their auras was still terrifying. They were the true elites of the Ancestral Hall. They had all formed a battle squad to explore the chaotic ruins. These people's eyes were filled with ruthlessness as they surveyed the vast territory of Earth. Someone said eerily, "The true master of Earth has returned. This planet belongs to us. Slaughter Earth. Kill Su Yin first." Groups of experts who had landed on Earth shouted coldly. Their auras rapidly grew stronger as they resisted the weakening period. These were tens of thousands of elite soldiers and generals. They were peerlessly powerful. When combined together, they were like a powerful cavalry that could sweep through everything. Cold, killing intent quickly engulfed the entire Earth. The residents who were silent in joy felt a chill run down their spines. The true experts had arrived. The Ancestral Hall's army, which belonged to the peak races, was pressing down. Various kinds of terrifying lights rushed over from the distant world and were about to attack the 10 great bases. The vast killing intent overflowed, and the mountains and rivers trembled violently. This calamity was too powerful. The battle squads from the Ancestral Hall were too tyrannical. Numerous battle squads that had once roamed the chaotic ruins gathered here and formed an army that charged toward the 10 great bases. This kind of suffocating aura that was about to make the 10 great bases explode erupted just as it was about to approach. Boom! Su Yin dove down close to the ground. His aura was surging violently and was even more frightening than a true dragon. This was because the energy fluctuations swept out caused the vast territory to tremble. He was like a cosmic comet rushing into the battlefield. "You dare to come alone? Su Yin, you're too arrogant." The battle squads shouted coldly. It wasn't that they looked down on Su Yin, but that they were extremely powerful themselves. Moreover, they had formed such a formation. "It's enough to kill you all." Chapter 721. Su Yan's disposition was completely different. He had already verified his Tao and stepped into the peak of the great Tao realm. His battle prowess had undergone a great transformation, surpassing what it was in the past. In the past, Su Yin was strong and domineering enough. But now, Su Yin seemed to have been reborn from the flames. His battle body shone, emitting terrifying light that was like a huge mushroom cloud. It was thousands upon thousands of times in size, surging out and tearing the sky apart. How terrifying and intimidating was this? A young divine king traversed space-time and arrived. The aura that erupted in an instant caused the world to explode. Earth and rocks flew into the sky, and even the sun, moon, and stars trembled from the impact. He was too powerful and ferocious, tearing apart the energy currents that were charging toward the 10 bases. Then, he let out a long roar and raised his fist to smash out. The world-shaking fist wind and the surging source of power were like 10,000 true dragons emerging from their lair. The various major characters from the outer realm, who were in charge of the various galaxies and had sealed off the solar system, were all given a great shock by Su Yan's sudden rise in power. As the energy was too exuberant, it spread throughout the entire solar system. The light he emitted was even more resplendent and blazing than the sun. The fist light that he punched out flashed with lightning and rumbled with thunder, smashing forward and engulfing 100,000 leagues. With just a single exchange, the vast region trembled. The fist wind was so sharp that it was as if many sword embryos had been drawn. With a whoosh, they pierced through void space and tore apart the bodies of the Ancestral Palace's elite soldiers who were charging toward the 10 bases one after another. Within a short period of time, the battlefield changed drastically, and blood flowed like a river. A large number of soldiers died, and their bodies broke apart. Just the fist wind that Su Yin punched out was extremely hard for them to withstand. They went on their way while suffocating and started to shatter. This was especially so since the area that the fist struck was the core area of the charging army. The sound of this fist being pulled was like a bolt from the blue, smashing down on the great Tao realm experts one after another, causing them to spurt out blood. No matter how tough their Tao bodies were, they couldn't withstand Su Yan's fist aura. This was an invincible power that was unstoppable, causing the entire battlefield to explode. Such a terrifying and invincible stance caused the entire Huaxiao alliance to be in an uproar. Su Yan's strength shook their hearts. It was as if before him, gods and demons were nothing. Even gods would be pierced through by Su Yan. Roar! Another bestial roar exploded as Bao Kai attacked from the rear. He was armed to the teeth, and at least a dozen types of secret treasures released killing lights. The combined torrent rolled into the army, killing a large number of them on the spot. Don't hesitate, kill them. On the battlefield where blood rained down, the army formed by the various large battle teams of the Ancestral Palace was truly stunned. Su Yan was even more terrifying than the legends. Facing such a large army, he was actually able to release such a terrifying power, causing them to suffer a great loss. Was this still the domain of a great Tao realm cultivator? Some people felt that Su Yan was a god. His battle prowess was extremely strong, and he was invincible among his peers. It was no wonder that even the ancient ancestor's son couldn't stop Madman Su. More people revealed ominous glints in their eyes. They weren't frightened. Instead, endless killing intent rose in their hearts. If they didn't get rid of such a character, there would be endless troubles in the future. He's just one person. No matter how strong he is, he can't stop us. One after another, powerful battle team leaders shouted to boost their morale. They were all veterans, so they wouldn't be frightened by Su Yan. Moreover, they had the advantage in numbers. They didn't need to fear Su Yan at all. They always believed that no matter how strong an individual was, he couldn't win against an army of thousands. He couldn't win against the tactic of numbers. Kill! A young expert wearing blood-color battle armor was the first to rush out. His blood essence was like a waterfall, and his body was as resplendent as a blood spear. He pierced through the sky, containing a terrifying source of energy. He also took out a blood spear. The heaven and earth exploded. This blood spear was a powerful secret treasure. It was filled with peerless sharpness and could easily pierce through the void. Zhu Yuanli was quite brave. He charged at the front and was confident that he could survive and earn great merit. One had to know that the great figures of the ancestral halls were paying attention. Once they took down Earth, they would definitely be rewarded according to their contributions. Kill. Zhu Yuanli had just moved when a large number of soldiers charged from behind. Their auras were fully released, and killing intent surged out. The formation was quite terrifying. They formed a great Tao ocean that could suppress the world. Even the gods would tremble if they came. Su Yin wasn't afraid in the face of such a terrifying formation. He was like an overlord running amok on the battlefield, swallowing the starry skies with disdain. Dawn. He was infinitely close to the battlefield. His entire precious body was burning even more vigorously than a great Tao furnace. His surging essence blood was even more turbulent than an ocean and even more spectacular than a raging sea. It was filled with the boundless might of the great Tao. The aura that assaulted his face caused Zhu Yuanli to instantly tremble. He felt that he was extremely small in front of Su Yan. Charging at the front was definitely an extremely foolish move. But it was too late for Zhu Yuanli to withdraw. He could only brace himself and pierce through Su Yan with the blood spear in his hands. Roar! Su Yan faced the sky and roared. His fist's momentum reached the sky and was filled with tyranny. It was a shocking scene. He brandished his fist and directly smashed down. What kind of situation was this? Zhu Yuanli had brought out a powerful secret treasure, but Su Yan was pushing through like a hot knife through butter. His body was close to the earth, and he was like a hot knife through butter. Boom! The universe was shattered. The indestructible blood spear seemed so weak in front of Su Yan's fist. The entire blood spear was blasted apart by his fist. His immortal body, which could be said to be indestructible, was filled with a demonic aura that made Zhu Yuanli tremble. His body hadn't even arrived, but the aura that filled the air was already tearing Zhu Yuanli's body apart. No! Zhu Yuanli let out a mournful cry. It was too late for regrets. He originally thought that he was strong enough to block Su Yan, but the outcome was laughable. He couldn't even block his opponent's aura. Su Yan's boundless aura rushed into the battlefield and launched a peerless collision. He can block the charge of our Ancestral Palace's army? I don't believe it. The faces of the Ancestral Palace's big shots were cold. They didn't believe that Su Yan could block such a charge. After all, with so many teams attacking together, although a small portion was blocked by the Baokai, that kind of charge was difficult to block even for a god. God of War Su Yan. The 10 major bases were completely silent. They watched as Su Yan charged into the mountain of corpses and the sea of blood, as if he had completely disappeared. That kind of nervous mood only spread for a short while before a great explosion erupted on the battlefield. The scene was even more earth-shattering than the eruption of 100,000 volcanoes. Among them, a figure erupted. He was majestic and imposing, and his long black hair danced in the wind. His moves were large and wide as he pressed forward. Every move he made was filled with an aura capable of suppressing kings. It was as if an invincible supreme being had awoken. His roar shook the mountains and rivers and exploded between heaven and earth. His essence, energy, and spirit were peerless. Someone cried out miserably. After a slight collision with Su Yan, half of his body collapsed and exploded into a bloody mist. Some of the veterans with rich battle experience felt fear in their hearts. This was a wild dragon. Su Yan's strength was like a group of true dragons gathered together. It was domineering and indestructible. It was like an indestructible cauldron, suppressing the world with its might. This was too frightening. Even when a great killing weapon struck Su Yan's body, it only caused his body to sway. It was extremely difficult to shake Su Yan's foundation. This meant that the other party's body was at the peak of perfection. Tao weapons couldn't threaten him in the slightest. It will take time to kill Su Yan. After all, he is a young overlord and can be considered a supreme being of his generation. The major characters of the Outer Realms communicated secretly. Let's suppress this entity first. I feel that it is somewhat strange. After suppressing it, the others will arrange to attack the 10 bases. Let's send Su Yin on his way in despair. On the battlefield, at least 10,000 enemies were chasing after Bao Kai. Bao Kai cried for his parents all the way as he rushed madly toward Emperor Qin's mausoleum. Su Yin and Bao Kai were very clear that they would be exhausted sooner or later if they continued to kill like this. No matter how strong they were, they wouldn't be able to stop tens of thousands of elite soldiers. Bao Cai's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. As long as he lured them into the universe of death, these soldiers would have to pray that their deaths would be easier. Bang! Suddenly, a jet-black cauldron tore through the sky and flew over. Even though the black cauldron didn't seem to be large, it was filled with fluctuations that caused one's heart to tremble. At the moment it descended from the sky, the black cauldron glowed and swiftly enlarged. It was like an enormous black mountain had been born. In an instant, it pressed down onto Su Yan's head, causing Su Yan's body to suddenly tremble while his ferocious aura was greatly suppressed. The Dao Seal Cauldron. Many exclaimed with shock. They hadn't expected that they would be able to move such a lethal weapon. The Dao Seal Cauldron was extremely difficult to refine, and it required the Divine King to refine it. This secret treasure only had a single effect, and it was to seal the energy of the Grand Tao within the body. It was equivalent to making Su Yin sever his own arms, and his combat strength would definitely be greatly reduced. This was a peerless secret treasure refined by the Divine King, and it was extremely rare and precious. He had no doubt that the army possessed all sorts of rare secret treasures. So, for the sake of capturing Su Yin, any price was extremely worth it to the Divine King. Kill. After a short period of time, Su Yin coughed up blood successively. No matter how strong he would definitely be injured while being suppressed by others while his combat strength was greatly reduced. His body staggered, and he was on the verge of falling to the ground. How could this bastard understand how terrifying the Dao Seal Cauldron is? Kuan Tianyu laughed coldly as he watched Su Yin struggle. The Dao Seal Cauldron was only rumbling, yet it hadn't been blasted away by Su Yin. When the second wave of attacks arrived, Su Yin roared towards the sky, and a peerless overlord had returned. His aura devoured the universe, and his inner Dao rumbled while the sound of a myriad of Daos rumbled. It was peerlessly terrifying. Impossible. Everyone in the surroundings turned pale as they saw Su Yin stretch his arms and tear the sky apart with his bare hands. So what if it was the Dao Seal Cauldron? Su Yan's inner Dao was like a universe, and it tore the Dao Seal Cauldron into two. A ferocious glow filled the heavens and the earth, and it was like the Divine King had possessed Qin Shi. His roar collapsed the heavens and the earth, and expanses of the enemy army were blasted flying before collapsing on the ground. Even if some of them survived, they suffered heavy injuries. Su Yin was like a ferocious beast that had gone berserk on the battlefield. His black hair hung loosely on his shoulders as he roared towards the sky. Get the fuck over here and receive your death. Chapter 722. He's too arrogant. On the battlefield on Earth, Su Yan's divine might was overwhelming. He faced tens of thousands of enemies by himself. Even the big shots of the Kuan family could not bear to see him say such words. Wasn't this arrogance a little too much? Although they acknowledged Su Yan's strength, what was he facing now? Tens of thousands of enemies were hunting him. It would take Su Yin a long time to kill them all. Now, he was facing such a lineup and still dared to say such words. He's too arrogant. Don't hold back anymore. Use all the treasures you can. With Su Yan's speed, it'll be difficult to suppress him with the human wave tactic. That's right. Suppress Su Yin as soon as possible and get this ancient planet to prevent any unexpected changes. This was a sure thing. However, the experts of the Ancestral Hall all felt that the back progenitor was too important and needed to be controlled as soon as possible. They were really worried about some unexpected changes. At present, the changes in the Milky Way had spread far and wide. Many nearby star zones were shocked. Gods came to investigate the matter, but they didn't dare to get too close. After all, there was a mighty figure sitting cross-legged in the Milky Way. Even if the divine king came, he would have to hide temporarily. Some people took out space-time treasures and tried to find out the truth. Unfortunately, they were very far away and could only see some blurry images. They saw that the Ancestral Hall and the Kuan family were targeting an ancient planet. They were even fighting a series of battles on the ancient planet. Then the question was, who was the Ancestral Hall targeting? Even a mighty figure came to hold the line. What was happening here was probably not simple. Buzz. On an ancient planet close to the Milky Way, a vast divine power surged out of the domain-crossing starry sky formation. Star Element and the others came to wait in person. However, when they saw a woman in a silver robe walk out of the teleportation formation, they were all dumbfounded. The Lord of the Big Dipper came in person. She was dressed in a silver robe, and her hair was like a waterfall. Her eyes were like the stars and the moon. She was noble and beautiful. She was graceful and elegant. Star Element and the others didn't expect the Lord of the Big Dipper to come in person. She was now the leader of a sect and had another identity. To put it bluntly, Bamboo Moon was now one of the most popular goddesses in the universe. Some people even hailed her as one of the members of the Divine King's reserve team. What was the Divine King's reserve team? An existence that had the qualifications to become a godly king would become a renowned, peerless expert in the universe in the future. Here, Bamboo Moon walked out of the starry sky formation. She came from here. Yuan, you've come as well. Isn't this Zhang Liang's supreme physique? You're here too. Bamboo Moon wasn't the only one who came. Yuan and Tensor were here too. They were brothers who had gone through life and death. After the calamity, Yuan and Tensor went to the Savage Mountain after half a year in Hokuto. Yuan's face was full of worry. He didn't know how things were going and whether Earth still existed. He was most worried that Earth had been destroyed. However, Star Element's words stunned Yuan. Not only was Earth in perfect condition, but the Almighty didn't even cross over to Earth. Before they came, Earth had already awakened and released an unprecedented radiance. Star Element was in disbelief. He felt that Earth's potential was many times greater than Alcade Planet. It was a planet with the potential to evolve into the strongest ancient planet. Yuan was speechless. He was also excited. It was good that Earth was in good condition. This meant that there was still a chance to reverse the situation. Perhaps the ancestors of the burial realm had set up some backups on Earth to ensure that Earth could withstand the calamity. I didn't expect Brother Su Yan's hometown to be so strong. Is the Ancestral Hall a dog? They can actually reach here. Tensor's breathing was a little heavy. The outside world was saying that Su Yin was still alive. His emotions surged as he said, "It's been a few years. I wonder how Brother Su Yin is doing. Ha ha, I can't wait to see him." Su Yin is still alive? Star Element and the others exclaimed. They didn't know about this at all. It was obvious that Bamboo Moon was the one who spread the news. She was also the instigator of the storm in the universe. Bamboo Moon bit her red lips. She didn't point out that she was the one who spread the news. She didn't want to disappoint them. "Will we meet again?" Bamboo Moon murmured. Her thoughts returned to the encounter in the Tower of Trials. Her slender, jade-like hands clenched. She felt that they would definitely meet again. She could faintly sense that Su Yin was fighting a bloody battle on Earth. The war that broke out in the Huaxiao Alliance was indeed incomparably bitter. 10,000 enemies reorganized their battle formations and brought out their killing weapons. They were burning with anger as they joined forces to attack Su Yin. They didn't believe that Su Yin could hold them off for an incense stick's worth of time. Facing this boundless divine power that blotted out the sky and covered the earth, Su Yin wasn't stupid enough to meet force with force. It seemed that the Ancestral Hall had underestimated the Huaxiao Alliance. "Kill them." A group of cultivators with powerful auras rushed out from the 10 bases. There were at least 100 of them. They were led by Xia Zhe and charged into the battlefield. When the 100 warriors burst out with their super strong foundation, the faces of the ancestral hall's bigwigs who were entrenched in the extraterrestrial domain turned gloomy. Someone said, "Good for Earth. They have a special type of secret space armor." I didn't expect Earth to have such a foundation. These 100 sets of secret space armor are not simple. It should be one of the inheritances of the Zhongyu clan. It seems that Earth has a lot of resources from the Zhongyu clan. Force armor, it should be this type of secret space armor. I didn't expect them to have this kind of secret space armor. The people from the Kuan clan immediately thought of the force armor. It was researched by the ancestors of the Zhongyu clan. The Kuan clan had once tried to decipher the secret space armor and control it. However, there was no doubt that they had failed. The forging process of the force armor was very complicated. It was one of the fruits of the Zhongyu clan's labor. The people from the Kuan clan once again had hope. Earth might have the forging process of the force armor. If a clan could control 100,000 sets of secret space armor, it was easy to imagine how powerful their foundation was. Although Xia Zhe and the others didn't have the power to change the outcome of the battle, the 100 experts from the Huaxia Alliance could definitely divide the battlefield and reduce the pressure on Su Yin. One had to know that not all experts were at the Great Dao realm. Otherwise, the Ancestral Hall's foundation would be too powerful. Most of them were at the Quasi-Dao realm. Xia Zhe and the others, with the help of the secret space armor, had the strength of a Great Dao realm expert. Even if they could reduce the pressure by a small amount, it would be of great help to Su Yin. The battle began once again. It was an intense battle. Boundless killing intent roared like a tsunami, shaking the heavens. The entire Huaxia Alliance was filled with intense battle cries. Let's see how long you can last. That bastard is about to die, right? You want to use the killing formation to stop the army? You're dreaming. An important figure from the Outer Realm sneered. At first, the 49 dragon pillars had shaken many to death. However, there were cultivators who followed Baocai's footsteps and stepped into Emperor Qin's mausoleum. These groups of experts had already been lured into the death universe by Baocai. Motherf asterisk Cur, are you blind? Cursing your grandfather to die? I'll beat you to death, you bastard. A scolding voice suddenly rang out. Baocai crawled out from Emperor Qin's mausoleum. Cold sweat was still flowing down its back. It had witnessed the complete annihilation of the army, and even the scene of them killing themselves in endless pain. Every scene made Baocai's hair stand on end. It had goosebumps all over its body. If it wasn't for the broken cauldron, Baocai wouldn't want to go to that damn place at all. Zhu Yamba's expression suddenly sank. What was going on? Why did Tai Baocai come out? Why didn't their troops come out? What happened just now? How long has it been? They all had an ominous feeling in their hearts. This was too ridiculous. Their troops seemed to have been buried in the sea. Not a single wave was created. How could such a ridiculous thing happen? The Kuan-Song regent tried to observe with the heavenly eye, but unfortunately, he couldn't see through the formation of the 49 pillars. His heart was also gloomy. He felt that the back progenitor was filled with many variables and dangers. Baocai was alive and kicking. It rushed into the battlefield and said smugly, "Is there anyone brave enough to come out and fight Grandpa Baocai? Even one against 10,000 is fine." Baocai's words reached the battlefield. Many people's noses became crooked from anger. This vicious beast was too arrogant. It was even more arrogant than Madman Su. Dozens of cultivators immediately rushed towards Tai Baocai. They brandished their killing swords or summoned their pagodas. Their auras merged together and began to suppress Tai Baocai. A bunch of trash. Don't come over and make a fool of yourself. Baocai was disdainful. It appeared very heroic. It was fat and bold with the Divine King's armor draped over it. It waved its snow-white claws and fiercely slashed forward. It was protected by the Divine King's armor. It even arrogantly took out the Divine King's sword embryo and slashed apart a pagoda that was smashing towards it. It even sliced a person in two. Bastard. Zhu Yamba's expression was frighteningly dark. That was his Divine King's sword. Even Baocai's armor was his Divine King's armor. Without a doubt, Baokai had used the power of the Death Universe to obliterate the Divine King's will in the killing intent. Now, these two treasures belonged to Baokai. The atmosphere in the outer realm was extremely oppressive. At this time, Su Yin still had the upper hand. They felt really humiliated. Boom! Meanwhile, the battlefield was rapidly changing. Because Baokai had rushed into the battlefield, it even threw Su Yin the Divine King's armor. Ha ha ha! Su Yin faced the sky and roared. He had fully recovered and brought out the Black Dragon Spear. With the Divine King's armor draped over him, his aura was peerlessly terrifying. He was like a demon god that had rushed out from purgatory as he slaughtered his way through the battlefield. A large number of enemy soldiers were disintegrated and their corpses flew into the sky. There were even some corpses that flew into the outer realm and smashed in front of the Ancestral Hall's great figures. This was a bloody humiliation. After all, no one from the Death Universe had returned alive. All of them had been buried. This caused fear to rise in the hearts of the enemy. They felt that Earth was a giant demon's den. Zhu Yangbua and the others' hearts were dripping blood. Their losses were too heavy. They had already been defeated. Su Yin was sweeping through the battlefield. With the Divine King's armor and the Black Dragon Spear, the Ancestral Hall's army was littered with corpses. So what if you have 10,000 enemies? I still haven't killed to my heart's content. Su Yin swept through the army and ran amok on the battlefield. He slaughtered his way through the mountains of corpses and seas of blood. He coldly shouted, "Have your Ancestral Hall Zhu Tian come out and let me kill to my heart's content. I want to slaughter your Ancestral Halls Zhu Tian." Chapter 723. The stench of blood rose and fell like smoke signals. The boundless earth was dyed red with blood. Mountains of corpses and seas of blood filled the ruined mountains and rivers. The battle cries were deafening, enough to intimidate the enemy. The surviving soldiers of the Ancestral Hall were terrified. Su Yin and Tai Baotsai's battle prowess was too frightening. Moreover, they were wielding the Divine King's battle armor and the Divine King's weapon, coupled with their own battle prowess. Who could stop them now? No one was a match for Su Yin. He was valiant and peerless as he dashed through the battlefield, running amok. Wherever his figure passed, corpses and bones would dance in the air. Everything would explode. Kill! Su Yin let out a loud roar. His essence, energy, and spirit soared to the heavens. He tore apart countless enemies. Su Yin's eyes were red from the killing. His body was surging with various kinds of essence blood beams. They were like various kinds of lightning, shattering the heaven and earth. A large number of soldiers were filled with hatred. Their eyes were filled with fear. Su Yin had turned into a killing god, reaping lives in the battlefield. Xia Zhe and the rest were in charge of dividing the battlefield. Baokai and Su Yin worked together to overturn the mountains and rivers, piercing through a large number of enemies. This was a complete suppression of the battlefield, a scene of blood staining the sky. What was blood? What was cruelty? Every spectator of the Huaxiao Alliance felt fear and emotions surging from the bottom of their hearts. Even Su Bingshuang felt that Su Yin was like a stranger. His temperament had completely changed. He was cold and tyrannical as he tore apart the enemy and began to crush them. Su Yin was unleashing a massacre under the absolute suppression. His ferocious aura surged as he slaughtered the battlefield until rivers of blood flowed. No one could contend against him. Even his words had thoroughly enraged the great figures of the Ancestral Hall. Their hearts were burning with anger, and they wanted to prove something. Their race's Zhu Tian had always been an invincible young paragon. Zhu Tian of this generation rarely appeared, but they didn't doubt that Zhu Tian couldn't contend with the paragons. He was definitely the strongest genius in the universe. However, in the end, Su Yin was still a rising star. Moreover, with the current resources of the buried region, it was utterly impossible for them to compare with the Ancestral Hall. Now, Su Yin had declared that he would exterminate Zhu Tian of the Ancestral Hall. This made the various heavenly deities extremely angry. Even the Divine King's eyes became cold as he furiously shouted, "What a madman! You lawless thing! You shall be punished." Ha ha! Su Yin laughed loudly in the battlefield. He looked heroic and ferocious. Golden ripples were spat out from his mouth, engulfing all directions. It was as if millions of golden mountains were charging in all directions. They smashed into the resisting troops until they trembled and were sent flying in large batches. Many of their bodies collapsed and turned into a bloody mist. Su Yan's chi and blood surged. It was even more vigorous than a divine furnace. His life source was relatively terrifying. Moreover, it continued to boil and seep out from his body. It turned into all kinds of thick golden lightning that hacked into the distance. Some people were blasted into pieces. The place where Su Yan was had completely become a no-man's land. The soldiers of the ancestral hall were trembling in fear. How could they resist such combat strength? It made them feel deep despair. Su Yan's might flourished even more in this world of bloody rain. His breathing caused the surroundings to rumble and tremble. Along with his breathing, the boundless great region would tremble as well. This was an intimidating might. Who dares to fight against me? When his ice-cold words were emitted, it was as if they could pierce through people's souls. On the blood-soaked battlefield, the several thousand soldiers who were still alive were terrified. They were truly worried that Su Yan's next target would be them. In short, Su Yan was like a hunter staring at his prey. He was suffused with a cold, killing intent that engulfed the battlefield. His aura swallowed 10,000 li, and no one dared to reply to him. Wherever Su Yan's gaze passed, they would all keep quiet out of fear. This kind of style was truly terrifying. It intimidated tens of thousands of enemies. These soldiers of the ancestral hall were like insignificant ants in front of Su Yan. They couldn't withstand his terrifying essence energy at all. Buzz! On the vast battlefield, Su Yan's entire body flourished with divine light. The sun and moon lost their luster, and the mountains, rivers, and earth rumbled. He took a step forward. His divine might was boundless, and his might swept through the entire battlefield. Suddenly, some people saw an invincible god of war walking through the starry skies. Tens of thousands of enemies trembled. At this moment, Su Yan was like a supreme overlooking the world. He looked down on the world and shouted coldly, "Who dares to fight against me?" His voice was like thunder and contained Su Yan's ferocious might. The surviving enemy soldiers felt humiliated and even wanted to step out to fight, even if it meant death. However, no one dared to step out. They didn't even dare to say a word because their souls had been suppressed. This scene caused the great characters of the ancestral hall to go mad. Such humiliation made them extremely sullen. They almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Almighty ancestor! Moreover, many of the great characters of the ancestral hall glanced at this ancient ancestor. They wanted him to take action and break the laws of Earth. They wanted him to descend and teach Su Yan how to be an honest person. Ha ha ha! Su Yan's laughter resounded throughout the universe, reverberating in the vast starry sky. Since things had come to this point, Su Yan only wanted to go all out. Even if he died, even if his entire race was annihilated, Su Yan wanted to go all out before it happened. No one knew if they would survive this calamity. No one knew the fate of the entire race. Su Yan wasn't afraid of death. He completely let go of his hands and feet. He was like a demonic god looking down on the common people. He rebuked angrily, "You only ask your race's almighty for help. How laughable! The ancestral hall is nothing more than this. My race has an invincible supreme who will cruelly suppress you." An old heavenly deity's face was gloomy. He had never imagined that one D would suffer such a crushing defeat and lose his will to fight under Su Yan's attacks. "Tell him to come out. I want to slaughter your race's invincible supreme." Su Yan stood tall between heaven and earth. His battle intent pierced through the firmament. He said coldly, "What's the use of talking without action? Get the hell out here. I, Su Yan, am right here waiting for him to accept his death." Bastard! Zhu Yongbua and the others were about to go crazy. Their faces and necks were red, and their lifespans were about to be damaged. Su Yan provoked them again and again, but they felt that their words were too weak and powerless. "Almighty ancestors, take action. Capture this person back to the race and let Zhu Tian kill him. Let him see the truth and reality clearly. The experts of the Ancestral Hall couldn't sit still any longer. They all pleaded for the ancestors to take action. Their hearts were also puzzled. Why hadn't the Almighty taken action yet? Could it be that even someone as strong as the Almighty couldn't break through the laws and order of Earth? The Ancestral Hall's ancestor had always been sitting at the edge of the solar system. No one had noticed that the entire Milky Way had become a dark prison containing a supreme spatial suppression. It was as if it came from prehistoric times and blocked the path of the Ancestral Hall's Almighty. Su Yin had long since noticed that the Milky Way had a powerful domain that blocked the Ancestral Hall's ancestor. However, it was unknown how long it could trap him. Once the Milky Way's domain was opened by him, would the Almighty still have a way to survive? The Ancestral Hall's ancestor didn't respond. Zhu Yanbo had an ominous feeling in his heart. After all, this was the second ancestral land of the Burial Realm race. There must be a corresponding backup plan that could block the Almighty for some time. No matter what, he had to bring Su Yin to the Ancestral Hall before this matter was leaked out. Otherwise, if there were any unforeseen circumstances, there might be other variables when he wanted to bring Su Yin away. Why we need Zhu Tian to suppress you? The young overlord of my Kuan family can suppress you. Kuan Tianyu shouted fiercely. As for Zhu Tian, you don't have the qualifications to challenge him. You lackey, you really know how to protect your master. Su Yin pointed at Kuan Tianyu and sneered. Aren't the young overlords of your Kuan family my servants? Get them over here. I'll give them some pointers in their cultivation. Arrogant bug, my clan's young overlord is on his way here. It's almost time. I hope you can still speak to me with this tone when the time comes. How could Kuan Tianyu not be angry? He was the dignified divine king of the Kuan family, and even the current patriarch of the Kuan family. After being insulted by Su Yin again and again, the divine king was so angry that he almost jumped up and cursed. If he's not coming, then what the hell are you talking about? Su Yin glared at Kuan Tianyu and impatiently waved his hand at him. You want me to wait? How about this? You come over here and fight with me. Ignorant thing. Kuan Tianyu's face was distorted. His body emitted the terrifying aura of the divine king as he shouted, In my eyes, you're just a bug that I can stomp to death with my foot. Come over here. I'll crush you with one finger. Su Yin replied like this and even pointed a finger at Kuan Tianyu. His words enraged the entire Kuan family. The starry skies trembled violently. They were so angry that they were trembling. This was the divine king, a high and mighty existence. He was an invincible existence, but Su Yin used such words to reply. Kuan Tianyu couldn't take it anymore. He, a dying man who doesn't realize how ridiculous his words are in my ears. Let him be crazy. There's no need to pay attention to a pitiful bug. The previous patriarch of the Kuan family from the Kuan Song region said coldly. His words were filled with disdain, but there was also a wisp of uncontrollable rage. Old bastard, what business do you have here? Can't you see that your grandfather is talking to the patriarch of the Kuan family? Don't you know how to respect your elders? Su Yin cast a sidelong glance at the Kuan Song region and sneered. Old bastard, are you not convinced? Fine, come down here and fight to the death. Bastard. The Kuan Song region was so angry that his face was trembling. His face was filled with savage and cruel killing intent. He said in a stern voice, When I catch you, I'll throw you into torture and teach you a lesson. Shameless old bastard. Su Yin pointed at his nose and cursed. If you don't dare to come down, then why are you talking nonsense? I'll give you a chance. You can join forces. I'll use one hand. What do you think? They were so angry that their hearts were trembling. Su Yan's provocation made the divine king want to kill him. What? What are you standing there for? You two good-for-nothings. If you don't dare, then shut your mouths. Su Yin spoke as if he were disciplining little chicks, causing those in the ancestral hall to be stunned. The two divine king had been insulted to the point that they had no temper. He wanted them to come down. The divine king was truly frightened, but he just sat there, unable to retort. He was so angry that his liver and stomach hurt. And you Zuyambwa, you can come down too. The three of you old bastards will form a team and come down for a fight. Su Yan's voice rang out again. Zhu Yambwa's eyes widened in anger. What does this have to do with me? Who wants to come down? In any case, it was impossible for Zhu Yambwa to come down and embarrass himself. If the Divine King was killed while standing at the Great Dao Realm, it would probably be the first ridiculous event in this universe era. The Divine King really lacked such courage and boldness. The entire Outer Realm starry sky fell silent. Everyone present knew that no matter what they said, the other party would only respond by telling them to come down for a fight. Hee, what a pitiful thing. A single strand of the Divine King's hair is enough to kill you. With your little cultivation, you still have the face to challenge the Divine King? Even I feel ashamed for you. All of a sudden, in the distant starry sky, waves of terrifying waves rushed toward the solar system. Millions of waves gushed over, and three indistinct figures appeared, filled with terrifying deterrence. These three were kings with imposing auras and could be said to be unrivaled in their generation. They looked down at Su Yin high and mighty. Chapter 724. Good, the king of the younger generation has finally arrived. Kuan Tianyu's suppressed anger was finally released. A relaxed smile appeared on his face. He felt that there was no more suspense and saw the dawn of victory. Su Yan's combat power was indeed tyrannical, but he believed that the hidden genius of the Kuan family in this era would not be inferior to Su Yan. He would not be inferior to the rising star of the declining Burial Region clan. Even if there was an accident, the young king of the Kuan family would not be defeated. This way, they could smoothly stall for time until the ancestral heaven arrived or the Almighty found a way to break the domain. This guy, Bamboo Moon, had already arrived at the outer region of the Milky Way galaxy. When she took out a space-time secret treasure and shone it on Earth, many images of Earth were reflected. Su Yan's figure also appeared on the mirror, causing Bamboo Moon's heart to tremble slightly. Ha ha ha! Seeing the images on the mirror, Tensor laughed excitedly. I knew it. How could brother Su Yin be short-lived? He must have a way to leave. Ha ha, what a great trick. Yuan's tensed heart finally relaxed. Although he was sure that Su Yin would not encounter any accidents, Yuan did not see Su Yin. He was still worried. Now, not only was Su Yin unharmed, even Earth was safe and sound. Bamboo Moon's snow-white cheeks revealed a smile. It was so beautiful that it was suffocating. She floated like a fairy, graceful and elegant. Her temperament was noble and holy. A long-lost smile also appeared on her beautiful face. However, Bamboo Moon was extremely worried about Earth's current situation. The Almighty was entrenched outside. Although the Almighty had not killed his way in, even the Big Dipper starfield had difficulty resisting the Almighty. Could a rear progenitor withstand the ancestral hall's attack? Bamboo Moon did not believe it. Bamboo Moon only hoped that the experts of the Burial Realm clan could act quickly. In the face of such a calamity, only the Burial Realm clan could withstand it. Otherwise, the best outcome would be for Su Yin and the others to leave their homeland. Then, Earth would fall into the hands of the Ancestral Hall. Star Element, you go there and tell the Old Star Master that if the Burial Region clan is defeated, he will leak Earth's coordinates to the world. This ancient life planet is even more amazing than the bipolar star. It will evolve to the level of the strongest ancient life planet. Bamboo Moon's words were cold. If they were really defeated, they couldn't let the Ancestral Hall have their way so easily. She believed that the various races would be able to measure the value of Earth. If the Ancestral Hall obtained an ancient star with the strongest life forms, their races would be too heaven-defying. I understand. Star Element nodded solemnly. This was related to the future of the universe. He was afraid that some of the superpowers in the Chaos Ruins would not watch the Ancestral Hall continue to grow. The value of the strongest ancient life forms was astonishing. Once it was controlled by the Ancestral Hall, it would evolve to the level of the strongest ancient life forms. That would be the day when the Ancestral Hall would collect the fortunes. When that day came, the Ancestral Hall would be unprecedentedly terrifying. Using the Huaxiao Alliance as an example, it could be seen that the evolution of the ancient life forms would be a great help to the races on Earth. Su Yin, the only rising member of the younger generation of the Burial Region clan. It seems like the Burial Region clan spent their remaining resources to cultivate him. I thought he was special, but it seems like he doesn't have 3 heads and 6 arms. What an ancient name for a race. Unfortunately, the Burial Region clan has declined to its current state. Look at this beautiful ancient life planet. It doesn't even have a single expert to protect it. It's time for my Kuan family to take over. You ants, what are you still holding on for? The sooner you bow down, the sooner you will have a chance to live. Cold voices filled the solar system. 3 young kings had crossed over. Each of them was stronger than the other, and their auras were more shocking than the other. They were like 3 martial arts gods who had crossed time and space to arrive. They were filled with the aura of gods and demons. They were the kings of the younger generation of the Kuan family. Some of them were peerless geniuses discovered 10,000 years ago. They had been sealed by the Kuan family until now, just so that they could participate in the rise of the Kuan family when they were reborn. Their words were cruel and domineering. These 3 were warriors who had experienced hundreds of battles. Their fame spread far and wide in the Chaos Ruins. They were the kings of the younger generation, and their battle strength was quite impressive. Kuan Lidong, Kuan Chongyun, Kuan Li Shue. You 3 came at the right time. Kuan Tianyu looked at the 3 of them with satisfaction. These 3 were the 3 peerless geniuses of the younger generation of the Kuan family. He laughed and said, Kuan Lidong, you go. If you can take Su Yan's head, my family will reward you handsomely. Family head, there is no need to reward me. Because no matter how great the reward is, how can I rush to take Su Yan's head? Kuan Lidong laughed as he walked out. He was clad in dark armor and emitted an iron-blooded, demonic aura. He looked down at Su Yin in the Huaxiao Alliance. He could easily erupt with a berserk battle strength that could burn mountains and boil seas. Since the Kuan family had taken root in the Chaos Ruins and had a long history, they naturally had powerful young kings. Family head, you are biased. The second person walked out quietly. He was faintly discernible in the air, but the fluctuations he emitted were like a giant sword embryo that could split the heavens. A vast and mighty sword intent surged into the heavens. He was clad in white, and his face was as sharp as a knife. His expression was cold as he said, How can we let Kuan Lai Dong monopolize this kind of merit? There aren't many survivors of the burial realm left. I think the strongest one should be left to me. The battle hadn't started yet, but they were already fighting over Su Yan's head. They were quite confident in their own battle strength. They all stared coldly at Su Yan with kind of disdain. As for the third person, Kuan Li Shue, she appeared holy and otherworldly. Her snow-white body was suffused with the aura of the great Tao. Her strength couldn't be gauged, but this woman was a rare beauty. She was an extraordinary genius of the Kuan family and was famous in the Chaos Ruins. Ha ha! The smile on Kuan Tianyu's face became even wider. He was very satisfied with their methods and said, It doesn't matter who fights. As long as we can take Su Yan's head, all of you will have contributed greatly. Family head, I think we should let him choose. When the time comes, don't say that the Kuan family is bullying the weak. Kuan Lai Dong said coldly. He was like a demon god standing tall in the darkness, illuminating the starry sky. His eyes emitted a bloodthirsty aura as he stared at Su Yan and said coldly, Brat, don't make the wrong choice. Otherwise, you'll be crushed to pieces. Su Yan, choose one. Kuan Lai Dong's cold eyes fell on Su Yan. He sneered and said, Why are you mute now? Humph, show me the courage you had just now. Let me see where your courage comes from. Looks like you have shown off enough. Su Yan impatiently waved his hand at them and scolded, It is rude not to kneel when you see someone from the main family. The 3 of you, come over here together. Let me give you some pointers on your cultivation. How dare you? Shameless boasting. The faces of the 3 young kings of the Kuan family immediately turned ugly. Terrifying waves of energy emanated from their bodies. They could easily shatter the void. Su Yan's words made the flames of anger rise in their hearts. After all, any one of them could hold their own in the chaos ruins. But Su Yin wanted to directly challenge the three of them? How could the three of them withstand such a tone? Their eyes were filled with killing intent. What? You still don't want to? Su Yin sneered and said, I was afraid that if you lost, you would say that your master bullied you. That would save you the trouble of finding excuses. But now, I am the one guiding the three of you. Are you still not willing? Isn't this fair? Su Yin, stop pestering us. Kuan Tianyu suppressed his anger and said with a sullen face, If you don't choose, don't blame the three young kings of the Kuan family for tearing you to pieces and feeding you to the dogs. Kuan Tianyu, you trash. If you don't have the guts to come down, then shut up. Su Yin glanced at Kuan Tianyu and scolded him. Kuan Lai Dong and the others were stunned. They had just arrived and didn't understand the situation. They thought they heard wrong. Su Yin was calling the divine king of the Kuan family a trash. They couldn't react in time. Bastard, since he doesn't want to choose, the three of you kill him and feed him to the dogs. Kuan Tianyu roared. His eyes were filled with bone-chilling, killing intent. If he didn't kill Su Yin, he wouldn't be able to swallow this anger. Since you want me to choose, then I will reluctantly choose one. Su Yin's awkward expression made Zhu Yongbo feel disgusted. He spoke as if he could fight the three of them alone. At this moment, Su Yin pointed at Kuan Lishue and said in a light tone, Since you want me to choose, I think I will choose this beauty. The starry sky suddenly went silent, followed by a series of laughter. The people of the Kuan family were laughing in anger. Even Kuan Lai Dong and the other two young kings couldn't help but laugh. Trash will always be trash. He can only make things difficult for women. He doesn't know that Kuan Lishue is the strongest of the three of us. She is just below the supreme overlord of the Kuan family. He chose himself. Who can he blame? Kuan Tianyu said coldly. Kuan Lai Dong is the weakest of the three young kings of the Kuan family. Letting him fight with you will prevent people from saying that the Kuan family is bullying the weak. Now, it seems that you're courting death. You chose the one who looks weak, but is actually the strongest. What are you blabbering on about? Are you done? Su Yin laughed coldly. I lack a maid to wash my feet. Is there a problem with that? I think Kuan Lishue is just right. You are courting death. Kuan Lishue, go and take his head. Kuan Tianyu was really furious. He was an overlord of the divine king realm. At this moment, the flames of anger in his heart surged, causing the entire solar system to tremble. He couldn't help but use his divine king realm power to shake Su Yin until not even his bones were left. The stunning beauty, Kuan Lishue, was charming and graceful. However, her eyes were filled with a biting cold aura. She looked down at Su Yin from above and coldly said, Who are you to call Kuan Lishue? It will only dirty my name if it comes out from your mouth. I have changed my mind now. I still lack a coachman. I think I will choose you. Little girl, you talk big. What milk did you drink to grow up? Chapter 725. The Kuan family's three kings were all famous young kings in the Chaos Ruins. They could be called war kings that ruled over a region. Although the Kuan family was not a superpower in the Chaos Ruins, they had an ancient heritage and a strong foundation. They had a half-step mighty figure in the Chaos Ruins and could definitely be called a top force in the Chaos Ruins. The kings of the younger generation of the Kuan family were naturally famous. However, the Kuan family's Kuan Lishue was an influential figure in the Chaos Ruins. She was a proud daughter of the heavens and had many suitors. Even young paragons of the superpowers had some. Moreover, the young Kuan Lishue had already reached the heavenly god realm. In the future, she had a high chance of stepping into the divine king realm. Just thinking about it made one realize how noble Kuan Lishue's identity was. She could be called a rare noble lady in the Chaos Ruins. This woman could be said to have unlimited potential. However, Su Yan's words caused everyone present to be in a daze. All of their faces stiffened. Kuan Lishue was a peerless beauty that even De Li, a young paragon of the Chaos Ruins, wanted to pursue. However, what did Su Yan want? If this news were to spread to the primal Chaos Ruins, it would definitely cause a huge commotion among the younger generation. Countless people would come to suppress Su Yin. Kuan Lishua looked down at Su Yin from high above. Her eyes were filled with a bone-piercing, killing intent. She said coldly, "You are just a piece of trash. You don't know what's good for you. It's fine if you don't kneel when you see a god. Wait until I cut off your tongue. Then, you will know how the word God is written." Boom! Kuan Lishue's aura suddenly skyrocketed. She, who had an otherworldly aura, was completely different now. A golden armor covered her body, outlining her perfect figure. She had transformed from a noble lady into a fierce female war god. She was a god. Although Su Yan's foundation was extremely strong in the Great Tao realm, a god was still a god. Even if her cultivation level was suppressed, Kuan Lishue's combat strength at the Great Tao realm was definitely not to be underestimated. After all, she was still very young. It was not a joke to say that her foundation surpassed others. It was just like how Su Yin could not defeat a god previously. However, it was hard to say now. No wonder her temper is so bad. She grew up drinking milk. Su Yin sneered, "Do you think you're strong?" But compared to Hokuto's Northern Dipper Fairy, the difference is too great. Bamboo Moon, who was observing through the space-time mirror, got this sentence from the shape of Su Yan's mouth. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly, rippling with a gentle smile. Then, she looked at Kuan Lishue with a rather cold gaze. Hearing this, Kuan Lishue's face darkened. As a woman, how could Kuan Lishue be convinced when she was compared? However, Kuan Lishue really didn't dare to provoke Bamboo Moon. She was a descendant of the Sky Bamboo lineage. She had heard some things about Bamboo Moon. How could the Kuan family afford to offend the Sky Bamboo lineage? Moreover, Kuan Lishue was very clear that with Bamboo Moon's current status, she definitely had a certain status in the Sky Bamboo lineage. Just within the Sky Bamboo lineage alone, there were several outstanding talents with terrifying battle strength. This kind of young supreme was not someone Kuan Lishue could afford to provoke. As the saying goes, a dog's mouth can't spit out ivory. What I admire is that you're about to die, yet you still have so much nonsense. Kuan Lishue's expression was ice cold. She was still looking down at Su Yin high and mighty. "My maidservant, what are you still standing there for? Hurry up and come over to serve me." Su Yin urged impatiently. "Go and kill him." Kuan Tianyu had had enough. The three of them from the Kuan family had extremely strong foundations and were even more prosperous than before. They could definitely suppress Su Yin. Moreover, Kuan Lishue was a heavenly deity. Her battle strength could be said to be terrifying. Wait. However, Zuyang suddenly stood out and smiled sinisterly. "Are we going to continue like this? Su Yin, you got a good plan. When the time comes, you'll all attack together. Do you think you're the leader of the battlefield?" So that's how it is. Kuan Tianyu looked as if he had just realized something. He pointed at Su Yin and reprimanded. "Su Yin, no wonder you wanted the three kings of the Kuan family to go down together. You're so cruel." Kuan Lai Dong stood out and said coldly, "Family head, the three of us are enough to sweep through the entire earth. There's no need to be afraid. Let's go down together and sweep through the entire abandoned race." "No." Kuan Tianyu shook his head. At first, Tai Baokai had led the Ancestral Hall's army away. The group of soldiers had mysteriously disappeared. Now that he thought about it, his hair stood on end. "This won't do, that won't do. Then what's the point of talking about it? Get over here and fight." Su Yin shouted angrily. "Scoundrel, you only know how to make noise on Earth. If you have the ability, come out and fight with Kuan Lishue." An old expert from the Ancestral Hall angrily rebuked. He couldn't let the three kings of the Kuan family go down and throw away their lives like this. The entire race was in a life and death situation. There was no need to talk about rules. "If I went up and gave you a pile of shit, would you eat it now?" Su Yin stared coldly at the person who spoke. "Bastard." This old expert was really angry. He shouted angrily, "If you have the guts to come out, I'll kill myself right now to atone for my sins." Swoosh! Under the stunned gazes of the surrounding people, Su Yan's figure strangely appeared in outer space and stood in the starry sky. He had left Earth. This battle caused the entire Huaxiao alliance to be like a tsunami. Xia and the rest instantly changed their expressions. How could Su Yin be so reckless? He actually ran out at this critical moment. This guy, Bamboo Moon's eyes suddenly shrank. What was wrong with him? What was the biggest goal of His Highness Daozu in arrest? Brother Su Yin wouldn't be so reckless, Tensor said. He looked strangely at Fairy Big Dipper, whose face had turned pale. He muttered in his heart, could there be something fishy between Su Yin and Bamboo Moon? As the leader of a sect, her personal visit was already enough to surprise Tensor. Now, she was so worried about Su Yan's safety. Could it be that they had some secret that couldn't be revealed? What are you waiting for? Su Yin stared at him and said coldly, if you're not going to kill yourself, are you waiting for me to do it myself? Kuan Tianyu and the rest were stunned. He actually came out and even left Earth. This was equivalent to leaving the life-saving environment. Was he crazy? He even came to seek death. In a short period of light, all kinds of terrifying fluctuations were emitted in the solar system. One after another, the sleeping experts wanted to fully awaken and release their strongest combat power. This also caused the solar system to become heavy and spread with an energy storm that could tear everything apart. There were many experts entrenched here. They all stared at Su Yin with bone-piercing eyes. There were even experts who laughed angrily. Ha ha, you lunatic. You really don't know what's good for you. What, you want to kill me now? Su Yin faced the crowd alone. Facing this kind of energy storm, his expression didn't change. He sneered and said, didn't you want a fair fight? Didn't you want to kill yourselves? I feel that you're laughable. Also, do you really think that the race of the buried realm doesn't have the strength to resist you? Even the mighty figures were stopped, let alone you. Su Yan's confidence was too strong. His expression didn't change. His words implied that he also had a backer and a background. The people of Earth weren't to be trifled with. After all, Su Yin had the Divine King as his bodyguard, and he could fight with his life at any time. There was even Patriarch Luo Yu's all-out attack. Even if a half-step mighty figure came, they would most likely have to suffer grievances or even escape with serious injuries. If Su Yin wanted to, he could erupt with Patriarch Luo Yi's killing intent. Apart from the mighty figures, no one here would be able to survive. This was Su Yan's confidence. There was no way out, so he would stand out and kill to his heart's content. Su Yan's powerful confidence had really intimidated Kuan Tianyu and the rest. If he didn't have a backer, who would dare to stand out? They were all afraid in their hearts. No one wanted to be the first to seek death. They knew that Su Yin was very strange. The scene was a little strange. The experts of the Ancestral Hall and the Kuan family were eyeing Su Yin covetously, but no one went up to target him. Do I need a powerhouse to kill you? Kuan Lixue maintained her strong confidence. She stared at Su Yin and sneered. Before coming, I received news that Brother Zhu Tian is already on his way. You're too arrogant. You actually angered Brother Zhu Tian, a woman who grew up drinking milk. When Zhu Tian comes, I'll take his head and give it to you as a gift. How about that? Su Yin laughed loudly. Bastard, nothing good comes out of a dog's mouth. I didn't want to make things difficult for you, but you provoke me time and time again. Don't blame me for teaching you a lesson first. As for you insulting Taoist Zhu Tian here, Taoist Zhu Tian will suppress you. Killing light shot out from Kuan Lixue's eyes. She suddenly swooped down. It was a great Dao realm domain. Kuan Lixue was also powerful enough. Her great Dao realm domain covered the sky and sealed the starry sky for thousands of miles. Kuan Lixue stood in the center. Her snow-white body erupted with divine light. Together with the golden armor, she was like a golden goddess. She was filled with the divine might of the great Tao that could suppress the universe. She gently waved her palm, and it was as if the sound of thunder came from the depths of the universe. It was quite oppressive. The great Tao seemed to transform into thousands of mountains under her control, brewing a monstrous, suppressive power. It's the 10,000 mountains. With Kuan Lixue's divine power, she can perfectly release the power of the 10,000 mountains. An expert from the Ancestral Hall couldn't help but comment. It really was like millions upon millions of golden mountains as if they were real. Moreover, when they were combined together, it was as if a boundless continent had been born, descending from the heavens just like that. It was filled with an aura that suppressed all gods and devils. This was the secret technique of the Kuan family, the 10,000 mountains. Kuan Lishue wanted to use this technique to suppress Su Yin. What a powerful secret technique! Xia Zhe and the others were shocked. The vast starry sky was covered by it. Even a corner of the mountain was boundlessly magnificent. It was like a celestial mountain that had fallen from the celestial realm. It had a grand aura, simple and unadorned, and contained the power to suppress gods and devils. But the god and devil that the 10,000 mountains wanted to suppress was a war god that was even more domineering than gods and devils. Boom! A loud sound that seemed to split the sky exploded. It was as if it had spread throughout the entire solar system. It was a figure that was awakening. At first, it seemed very small under the 10,000 mountains. But at the moment when Su Yin truly awakened the power that belonged to him, the sky was trembling. The sun, moon, and stars were wailing. The great Tao seemed to be trampled under his feet. Only he stood at the peak of the great Tao. Wong. He completely released it. Light overflowed into the sky, causing the huge 10,000 mountains to tremble. It was as if the entire world was being carried by Su Yin. He carried the heavens and had a powerful aura. His blood essence surged out, causing the entire 10,000 mountains to tremble and start to collapse. This was too domineering. He had shattered the 10,000 mountains with his own power alone. The terrifying domain that emerged from Su Yan's body was capable of destroying the heaven and earth. The great Tao lost its luster. He was like the birth of a king of myriad Taos. Before this aura, Kuan Lishue couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. Chapter 726. Su Yan's figure was blazing. His pores gushed out a vast amount of blood essence, tearing apart the 10,000 mountains. At this moment, even the solar system couldn't suppress his radiance. Su Yin was stepping on the great Tao. He was like a god of war, standing at the peak of the great Tao, majestic and domineering as he charged into the sky. Facing the oncoming divine might, Kuan Lishue's heart trembled. That was because she sensed Su Yan's Tao and techniques, the source of his power, his spiritual domain. Facing this kind of power field, Kuan Lishue couldn't help but feel suffocated. She had encountered such a terrifying existence before. She had watched those young supremes from afar. That kind of shocking divine might had penetrated deep into her bones. But now, she encountered it again, and it came from Su Yin. This made Kuan Lishue incomparably furious. Moreover, Su Yin was already pouncing over like a god of war, tearing apart the universe. This made Kuan Lishue's heart tremble with fear. At this moment, the expressions of Kuan Lei Dong and the others changed. They were well aware of Kuan Lishue's combat strength and the tyrannical strength of the 10,000 mountains. But what was this? Su Yin hadn't even made a move. He had crushed the 10,000 mountains with his aura alone. How strong was this person? Buzz. Kuan Tianyu's expression was somewhat gloomy. This was because Kuan Lishue seemed to be terrified. In a panic, she took out a secret treasure to block the tyrannical Su Yin. She was afraid. She couldn't hold her ground in this kind of battle, so she could only use her secret treasure to make up for the gap. The Kuan-Song region could still remain calm. Kuan Lishue had many trump cards and techniques. It was unlikely that she would be defeated by Su Yin in a few moves. Boom! A large cauldron rushed over with a vigorous aura. It had the terrifying power to suppress a group of kings. The moment it rushed over, it rapidly enlarged. The cauldron was like a cosmic star, emitting a great Tao fluctuation that could shatter everything. This was Kuan Lishue's natal cauldron. It had accompanied her all the way to the heavenly god realm. Even though it was now suppressed to the great Tao realm, this cauldron was still tyrannical enough to crush the energy fluctuations released by Su Yin. Moreover, the cauldron swiftly charged towards Su Yin. However, what caused everyone's faces to turn pale was that Su Yan's majestic appearance was still as overbearing as before. He charged head-on and waved his fist, bombarding the treasure cauldron. How arrogant! This immediately infuriated the Kuan clan's cultivators. This was Kuan Lishue's heavenly god weapon, even if it was suppressed to the great Tao realm. Even though it was suppressed Tao realm, it was strong enough. This cauldron is forged from primal chaos treasure material. Does Su Yan really think of himself as a heavenly divine weapon? Some people sneered when they saw Su Yan, whose aura swallowed the starry sky and whose might was extraordinary. However, even if this was the case, could he use his physical body to forcefully resist the precious cauldron? Clang! Clang! Su Yan's fist landed solidly on the cauldron. Loud sounds rang out. The cauldron actually started to distort faintly amidst the rumbling sounds. Is his body comparable to a divine weapon? The expressions of the group of great figures from the ancestral hall darkened. That was a suppressed heavenly god weapon, yet was actually deformed by Su Yan's attack. Then, how strong was Su Yan's body? He could actually destroy the cauldron with such strength. This wasn't just a single punch. Su Yan roared toward the sky, his aura even stronger. Clang! Clang! He threw punch after punch at the cauldron. Each punch carried with it an overflowing aura. Comprehending the Tao on the celestial star, he guided 10,000 Taos to temper his body, surpassing his previous foundation and causing his body to reach perfection. Moreover, he used the initial sutra's artifact building chapter to temper his body, causing it to transform. When his third punch erupted, the void exploded. The sound was deafening. Everyone could faintly see Su Yan turn into a dazzling cauldron that encompassed the universe and was filled with a source of energy that could crush the world. Quick, look! The experts of the Huaxia Alliance cried out excitedly. They saw the cauldron distorting and deforming. This cauldron was still too tough and couldn't be completely shattered. However, it had already deformed and was sent flying by Su Yan's attacks. Pooh! Kuan Lishue coughed up blood, her face pale. Not good. Kuan Leidong's face turned pale. The battle hadn't started yet, but Kuan Lishue was injured because her life treasure was damaged. This was a serious problem. Kuan Lishue might not be a match for Su Yan. Submit to me, and I won't kill you. In Kuan Lishue's spiritual world, Su Yan's voice came, almost shattering her soul. Kuan Lishue was terrified, but her heart was also filled with boundless flames of anger. She was a young king of the Kuan family, a famous noble lady in the Chaos Ruins. She had to submit to a great Tao realm cultivator. She might as well find a piece of tofu and kill herself. I have my own Tao technique to kill you. Kuan Lishue's beautiful face flashed with malevolence. Her figure dissipated in a blur and was replaced by a peerless power that filled the sky. The sound of scriptures was transmitted, and it was as if a starry sky was being created. It evolved into a huge golden field that covered the heaven and earth. The sky was filled with ancient scripture sounds. Kuan Lishue turned into a starry sky, and the heaven and earth lost their luster for a short period of time. The world seemed dim and lightless. An aura that suppressed all living things came rushing over, spreading out in a mighty manner. This was a unique great Tao domain power. In this world, it was filled with Kuan Lishue's powerful Dali. Moreover, there were great Tao scriptures arranged in the golden starry sky. The ancient starry sky art is one of the top great Tao domain powers in the universe. It will definitely be able to suppress Su Yan. A Kuan family expert's words were filled with anticipation. He saw that Su Yan was trapped in the golden starry sky and that the golden starry sky was rapidly shrinking. As it was squeezed, all sorts of destructive storms were born from within, engulfing towards Su Yan. Bullsh *T, the starry sky. I'm the master of the universe. Even the starry sky will be included. Su Yan's reply made the group of elders from the Kuan family so angry that their faces turned ashen. This was the ancient starry sky art. It sealed the sky and the absolute land, turning one's body into a small world and using one's strongest power to annihilate a strong enemy. Faced with the attacks of godly power that filled the sky, Su Yan's moves were simple and direct. As he raised his hands and feet, the ancient starry sky trembled. With him as the center, a huge black crack spread out in all directions. Open! Su Yan's thick black hair danced in the wind as he fought with the traitors. His performance was very strong. His body was burning, and the profound mysteries of the universe were released. It was as if a vast ocean had poured down from the sky, enveloping the entire place. So what if it was the ancient starry sky art? Su Yan used his absolute power and his own domain to suppress the entire ancient starry sky, including it in his domain world. He was simple and violent. He didn't even bother to check Kuan Li Xue's whereabouts. He waved his fist and smashed it, causing the golden starry sky to be riddled with holes. His figure flickered in and out of the various regions of the ancient starry sky. In a short period of time, he had thrown over 100 punches. It was too fast, completely crushing the enemy with the speed of lightning. The entire ancient starry sky was torn apart. That powerful aura was still crushing down, causing Kuan Li Xue to feel fear from the bottom of her heart. No matter how strong her power was, no matter how strong her secret technique was, she was still suppressed by Su Yan. The pressure made her tremble and suffocate. In the end, Kuan Li Xue was forced out under heavy injuries. She fled in panic. This person was simply undefeatable. Only the invincible young supreme being in the chaos ruins could suppress him. You want to leave? Do you think you can? The body was like the universe, perfectly merging with the universe's time and space. When Su Yan's secret technique body manifested like a universe domain, it directly transformed into a boundless hand that covered the starry sky. It stretched forward and violently suppressed Kuan Li Xue. Not good. This scene caused the expressions of the Kuan family's experts to change drastically. Several heavenly deities immediately rushed over to save Kuan Li Xue. However, Su Yan took one step after another, strolling through the starry sky. He walked through space, and each step was like a world. Stop! Several heavenly deities roared. Their eyes were red, shaking the starry sky. They wanted to suppress Su Yan, but it was useless. On the immortal star, Su Yan had become the disciple of the time and space holy man and studied the changes of time and space. His control of space had reached perfection. This is a fair fight? If this was the case, why didn't the three little kings of the Kuan family join forces earlier? What were you doing earlier? Su Yan sneered and easily avoided the attacks of the heavenly deities. The Kuan Song region's expression was gloomy, but they could not watch Kuan Li Xue be captured alive. However, it was already too late by the time they acted. It could be said that they were careless. They did not expect Su Yan's movements to be so fast. Su Yan's speed was not inferior to the heavenly deities. Moreover, he was too close to Earth. He directly merged with Earth's unique laws and shouted angrily, "You heavenly deities, why aren't you chasing? Come over and let me give you some pointers on your cultivation." The heavenly deities of the Kuan family had ugly expressions. Rushing to Earth now was simply courting death. He cheated and suppressed my heavenly deity power. Kuan Li Xue was terrified and screamed continuously. She had actually been captured alive. She had even used her heavenly deity power to escape, but Su Yan had secretly used the Divine King's bodyguard power. "My spoils of war, shut up obediently, or I'll let you warm my bed immediately." Su Yan's cold eyes swept over Kuan Li Xue. His words made her shudder, and goosebumps appeared all over her body. Falling into Su Yan's hands, how could she have a good ending? "Su Yan, let Kuan Li Xue go immediately. Don't make a mistake." Kuan Songdong and the others were furious, but they did not dare to enter Earth. Under the suppression of Earth's unique environment, even the Divine King would be suppressed to the great Tao realm. What can we do if we don't let her go? If you have the ability, come down and ask for her. Su Yan replied with a smile. Looking at the group of experts in outer space with gloomy expressions, Su Yan's heart was also heavy. There were too many experts from the Ancestral Hall and the Cohen family. As for how long the situation in the Milky Way galaxy could trap the mighty figures, it was also unknown. "You'll die if you don't let her go." A calm voice rang out. It was like a bolt of lightning that contained great divine might, causing the chi and blood in many people's bodies to churn. Many people were shocked. Su Yin also raised his head and looked into the distant starry sky, gazing into the Milky Way galaxy. A shadow appeared at an extremely fast speed. His figure could not be seen clearly as it was filled with chaotic fog. Within the chaos, it was as if a heavenly furnace was burning. Blood essence rippled, causing the starry sky to dim. It was even to the extent that he crossed through the starry sky, his divine might surging into the heavens. He was like a young divine king on a journey, because wherever he passed, large jet-black cracks would appear in the starry sky. This was because his speed was too fast, causing the starry sky to collapse uncontrollably. Many people were shocked. This person was too powerful and mysterious. The aura gushing out from his body was even more magnificent than that of a true dragon. It made them unable to breathe. Chapter 7:27. That is, ever since the Almighty had occupied the Milky Way galaxy, more and more spectators had been alerted. Even so, no one dared to observe for too long. Now, a shadow had appeared in the solar system. It was getting more and more terrifying. Wherever it passed, it would release its own domain, causing the stars in the sky to tremble. Was it going to enter a situation where the sun and moon were destroyed? Although this person's figure was blurry and covered in chaotic fog, his aura was too powerful and vigorous. He had arrived in the solar system with a majestic gait. His body was filled with endless radiance, illuminating the sky. He was like an invincible god of war under the starry sky, filled with supreme majesty, looking down on all living things. Zhu Tian, am I seeing things? Many people trembled and their scalps went numb. This was because they saw the dazzling lines on this person's forehead. Who didn't know that every generation's ancestral sky of the Ancestral Hall would have an inheritance mark on their forehead? It was like a kind of inheritance, a status, or a symbol of glory for the ancestral sky. Whoever obtained it would be the current generation's ancestral sky. This special pattern was crisscrossing like an ancient character, but it contained a power that could suppress all living things. Without a doubt, this was the arrival of the Zhu Tian of the Ancestral Palace. In the entire universe, who didn't know about the Eastern Demon, the Western Buddha, the Southern Sovereign, and the Northern Demon? The Zhu Tian of the Ancestral Palace was definitely one of the strongest Ingjia palaces in the universe. Zhu Tian was not inferior to the Four Supremes. As long as the Zhu Tian of this generation rarely appeared, no one knew how strong the Daozu Palace was. Many people believed that Zhu Tian was not inferior to the Supremes. This person's fame was too great. It alarmed many old gods. They were all shocked. What was going on? The Almighty of the Ancestral Palace had come. Now, even Zhu Tian had come. What was the origin of the ancient life star they were targeting? The experts of the Kuan family and Zhu Tian were agitated. They never thought that Zhu Tian would come so quickly. They thought that it would take some time for him to arrive. Now that Zhu Tian had appeared, the people of the Ancestral Hall burst into laughter. Their clan Zhu Tian had come. Their clan's strongest expert had come. How could the only rising star of the burial realm, Su Yin, who had been nurtured with their remaining resources, stop Zhu Tian? Zhu Tian, you've reached the pinnacle of your accumulation. You've torn through the bottleneck and stepped into the deity realm. Kunkang Region asked with a smile. He knew very well that there were many dragons and phoenixes with great potential. They were all accumulating energy and could easily step into the divine realm. However, in order to become stronger in the future, he would continue to accumulate and walk towards perfection. Now, since Zhu Tian's entire body was emanating chaotic mist, it meant that he'd charged through and stepped into the godly domain. Haha, there's something you don't know about the green domain. Zhu Yangbo said proudly. My clan Zhu Tian has yet to step into the divine state. What? He hasn't stepped into the divine realm? Even Kuan was shocked. Since he hadn't stepped into the deity realm, why was his body emitting chaotic fog? This should be energy that belonged to the chaotic aura, an energy substance that couldn't be contained by those who weren't at the deity realm. You might not know, but Zhu Tian has been wandering the chaos ruins all these years, enduring the chaotic aura to temper his body. Zhu Yanhua explained proudly. His words caused Kuan Tianyu and the others to pale. The great Tao realm had to endure the tempering of the chaotic aura. It was extremely dangerous, and one could easily die. However, not only had Zhu Tian endured it, but his body had even become similar to a divine body. This was terrifying. With Zhu Tian's talent, it was truly amazing to have such a powerful body. In fact, Zhu Yanhua had left something unsaid. The reason why he had to take the risk was because Zhu Tian was about to swallow the medicinal liquid of the little divine king pill. When that day arrived, Zhu Tian's era of rise would begin. Before that, he had to have a strong enough body to withstand the baptism of the little divine king pill. This generation, Zhu Tian had lived up to everyone's expectations. He had finally tempered a peerless battle physique and was about to cross over and begin his grand ambitions. Brother Zhu Tian, save me. Kuan Lishua struggled with all her might, staring at Zhu Tian with fervent eyes. She felt that there was no obstacle that could stop Zhu Tian's invincible stance. So what if it was Su Yan? Blood would definitely flow in the sky. Still not letting her go, Zhu Tian's might flourished. He had his hands behind his back, and his figure was shrouded in chaotic fog. The slight tremor of his power caused the void to explode. Large black cracks extended into the distance one after another, causing some celestial bodies to tremble. Zhu Tian's aura was too strong, suppressing the starry sky as he looked down at Su Yan. It was as if he was issuing an order. Every word contained great might, and it was as if an endless mountain was pressing down. Kuan Tianyu and the others looked at Su Yan, waiting for him to admit defeat. Zhu Tian was here, so how many people in the same generation could compete with him? It was impossible for Su Yan to be on the same level as Zhu Tian. Who do you think you are? Su Yan slapped Kuan Lishue's leg and rebuked. You dare to covet my spoils of war? Brat, you're quite bold. The entire place was deathly silent. Kuan Lishue, in particular, was so angry that her whole body was trembling. She was humiliated in front of the person she admired. She was so angry that she almost fainted. Her plump buttocks were still burning, making her feel unbearably ashamed. The surrounding people were dumbfounded. That was Zhu Tian, someone unmatched in the same generation. But Su Yan actually berated him and even said he was a fart. If this were to spread, who knew how great of a storm it would cause? Su Yan, are you courting death? Zhu Yanhua roared, shaking the starry sky and spreading far and wide. Oh, Su Yan. The outer realm was in an uproar, and a group of old gods were trembling. The divine king was shouting at Su Yan. This name was all too familiar to them. They were all scared stiff. Madman Su, whose name had spread throughout the universe, was actually still alive. He was even facing Zhu Tian from the ancestral hall. This made them feel as if they were dreaming. Su Yan, the rising star of the burial realm race, is actually still alive. Unbelievable, truly unbelievable. What a great move to deceive everyone. This is definitely the burial realm race's territory. The entire place was in an uproar. No wonder such a remote region would alarm a supreme being. It turned out that it was related to the burial realm race. Su Yan was even on this planet and had jumped out to meet them. This is going to be a good show. The burial realm race and the ancestral hall have been fighting for countless years. But now the most outstanding experts of the two peak races are meeting here. Some people were filled with anticipation as they watched with wide eyes. There were even some who were bold enough to take out their space-time treasures. They no longer cared about the deterrence of the supreme beings. If they couldn't personally watch such a battle, they would regret it for the rest of their lives. After all, they were enough to represent the fates of two great clans. Are you joking? However, Someone said in astonishment, "You want Su Yin to fight Zhu Tian? What kind of joke is this?" The Burial Realm race has been in decline for countless years. Do they still have resources? Can they fight Zhu Tian? That's impossible. It's just a fantasy. Yes, you've overlooked a problem. Although the Burial Realm race was once glorious, they were still defeated in the end. Although it makes sense, I feel that Su Yin isn't weak either. He might be able to fight Zhu Tian. Many onlookers were discussing this. Some even had a premonition that many universe experts would come here in the future. Moreover, the events that erupted here would definitely sweep through the various major star fields at a terrifying speed. After all, this was related to the expedition of the two peak race's strongest experts. This is bad. Tenser's expression changed as he said, "Brother Su Yin has encountered Zhu Tian. He's in big trouble. Zhu Tian controls endless resources and cosmic mystic realms. He even controls a broken universe. His race has several lands of fortune in the primal chaos ruins that have given birth to extraordinary fruits of fortune. The Ancestral Hall will definitely spend endless efforts to nurture Zhu Tian every generation." Yuan's expression was solemn. He didn't know how many mystic realms Su Yin had excavated on Earth or what he had experienced in the strongest training ground. Had he transcended once again? Had he surpassed his past self? Bamboo Moon clenched her slender hands. She came from a sky bamboo lineage, so how could she not know how terrifying Daozu's hall was? The Ancestral Hall was one of the biggest beneficiaries of every generation's contest in the primal chaos ruins. This was directly related to the Zhu Tian of each generation. Su Yin had encountered one of the strongest geniuses in the universe in advance. He was bound to experience a cruel and bloody battle that could easily lead to death. Someone actually dares to speak to me like this. Ha ha ha. Zhu Tian stood tall in the starry sky, his body suffused with primal chaos fog. He looked up and laughed. This wasn't anger, but a kind of disdain and laughable laughter. Su Yan's words were a great joke to Zhu Tian. His laughter was very loud, and it spread throughout the entire earth. Many of the celestial bodies floating in the starry sky trembled, as if they were about to fall uniformly. This kind of power was truly shocking. He hadn't even stepped into the divine realm, but he already had such a strong aura. This made Kuan Tianyu and the others sigh. The Ancestral Hall was indeed the Ancestral Hall. It had an unfathomable foundation. "Are you stupid? What are you laughing at?" Su Yin shouted coldly. "Do you think you're a heavenly beast? Come here. If I don't beat you into a pulp, my surname isn't Su." The battle blood in Su Yan's body had long been boiling and burning. Even the anger accumulated in the immortal planet was about to burn, but Su Yin wasn't blinded by hatred. He wanted to maintain his strongest state and kill Zhu Tian. "Su Yin, how dare you insult Zhu Tian?" Kuan Lishue's face was ferocious, as if someone had stepped on her tail and touched her nerve. Even if she was a prisoner, she wouldn't allow Su Yin to insult Zhu Tian. However, before she could finish her words, Su Yan's temperament was transforming. Although it needed a process, it was already terrifying enough. His long black hair danced wildly, and his whole body was rippling with boundless killing intent. This was the moment when a divine demon appeared in the sky. His aura was frightening, and drops of battle blood were boiling. Just the energy fluctuation alone was enough to make Kuan Lishua tremble, like a slave who had fallen into a bloody purgatory. "Ah!" She screamed miserably as her entire body shattered. Su Yan's slap had turned her into a bloody mist. He grabbed Kuan Lishua's beautiful head and threw it into the starry sky, rushing towards Zhu Tian. The people of the Kuan family felt as if they were struck by lightning. Kuan Lishua was slaughtered just like that. It was too simple and direct. Some people had forgotten about Madman Su, who went on a killing spree in the Divine Mountain Range. Kuan Lei Dong and the others were trembling. If it were them, their ending would be even worse than Kuan Lishua's. "You'll be the root." Zhu Tian's figure suddenly became terrifying. He pushed open the chaos and crushed Kuan Lishua's head as he rushed towards Earth. "No!" Zhu Yamba's expression changed drastically. He didn't agree to let Zhu Tian enter Earth and fight Su Yan. It's fine. I'll wipe out their entire family alone. The glory of the ancestral hall cannot be disgraced, especially this family. They must respect Zhu Tian like a god. Chapter 728. Zhu Tian charged towards Earth with domineering words. This was an unrivaled belief of his generation. No matter what realm he was in, Zhu Tian had the confidence to challenge any powerful enemy. Moreover, Zhu Tian didn't place the burial realm in his eyes at all. He had the supreme attitude of slaughtering all of the younger generation of this declining race. Good. Zhu Yanhua and the others laughed loudly. They were very satisfied with Zhu Tian's spirit. Moreover, Zhu Tian had the strength to make such a statement. He was the strongest expert of Zhu Tian's younger generation. How could he be weaker than a rising star of a declining race? Too arrogant. Tensor was furious. He saw Zhu Tian's words through his lips and couldn't control himself. He wanted to rush up and beat Zhu Tian up. I'll kill him. Yuan clenched his fists tightly, and he seemed like a war king that was about to awaken. Terrifying energy swept out while the aura of a fiend god rippled out. Expanses of supreme brands seemed to have appeared behind him, and they intended to trample on the region of stars and suppress the sea of stars. This was Yuan's spiritual will. He silently protected his race and defeated all enemies. He had no regrets, even if he were to die. He wanted to complete everything he wanted to do before he died. He had a heroic heart, and his aura surged violently. He was like a war god who had returned from the flames and was about to be reborn here. A senior elder from Hokuto turned pale. Yuan had obtained a great opportunity on the Savage Mountain. The aura behind him was mysterious and majestic. It was as if he had awakened a storm that swept through the sea of stars. However, Yuan felt that he wasn't strong enough. He still needed to surpass himself and tap into his own potential. Only then would he be satisfied with his martial heart. Brother Yuan, don't be anxious. We'll work hard together, and sooner or later, we'll be like Zhu Tian, looking down on all enemies. Tensor's eyes turned red. He patted Yuan's shoulder to calm him down and said, I'll leave this battle to Brother Su Yan. He'll definitely be able to defeat Zhu Tian. That's right. Yuan nodded heavily. Wasn't Yin Xian strong enough back then? Wasn't the father and son strong enough? Wasn't Shui Guan strong enough? Wasn't he killed by Su Yan in the end? Now, another Zhu Tian had appeared. Yuan also believed that Su Yan could represent the entire race of the burial realm in a tyrannical manner. He would regain the glory they had lost and defeat the humiliation they had suffered. However, Yuan didn't want to hide in the back and watch the battle from afar. He wanted to stand up and become the most powerful. That Tao heart of his had become even more terrifying and terrifying. Sooner or later, it would transform. A doyen from the Big Dipper sect side, but didn't say anything. Zhu Tian's strength was unquestionable. It was still very difficult to say whether Su Yan could escape this calamity, let alone suppress Zhu Tian. The ancestral hall. Boom! On Earth, Zhu Tian had yet to completely descend. His invincible demeanor was fully displayed. Moreover, in Earth's environment, Zhu Tian's aura was even more turbulent. It was as though he could swallow the world and suppress the entire Earth. Zhu Tian was definitely at his peak. His silhouette, shrouded in primal chaos, revealed the source of terror. It was as though layers of cosmic energy were being unsealed. It spread across the entire planet and shook the mountains and rivers within 100,000 miles. The mountains, rivers, and earth wailed as they began to rumble. They couldn't bear the might of Zhu Tian's descent. When he charged into the earth, an abnormally terrifying pressure assaulted Zhu Tian. This was Earth's law and order. It repelled foreign life forms, especially experts who exuded the will to destroy the Earth bloodline. Without a doubt, Zhu Tian was being suppressed. A Cohen family expert said worriedly, "This is bad. Zhu Tian has been suppressed. Earth can even suppress the Divine King. Zhu Tian will definitely enter a weakened state. He won't be able to stand in his perfect state and attack Su Yan. So what? However, Zhu Yanwu didn't seem to mind at all. He said coldly, "Even if Zhu Tian is heavily injured, will it be a problem to kill a pitiful worm from a declining race?" That's true. Zhu Tian is indeed Zhu Tian. Even in a weakened state, he's still an invincible giant dragon. Su Yin can only look at his back and can't contend against him. I'm looking forward to the scene of Zhu Tian removing Su Yan's head and throwing it into the cosmos for all the major powers to see. I'm sure Xiahou and the other Divine King will die of anger on the spot. Zhu Tian's group of experts laughed loudly. They had absolute confidence in Zhu Tian. So what if he was in a weakened state? To Zhu Tian, this was nothing at all. Boom! As expected, the mountains, rivers, and earth trembled. Large black cracks split open and extended far into the distance. Earth and rocks rolled, and dust filled the sky. There was only a single shadow blazing to the point of burning the world. Even in a weakened state, Zhu Tian was extremely terrifying. He was like a pitch-black firmament pressing down on the vast earth. "Su Yin, I'm already here. Why aren't you coming to accept your death?" Zhu Tian let out a cold voice. At the same time, he began to absorb the boundless essence of the earth. His body was suffused with a heavenly aura that suppressed the entire place. This was rather tyrannical and terrifying. It was as if a dark divine king had descended and was looking down on the entire Huaxiao Alliance. Damn, what milk did this dog drink to grow up? He's so arrogant. Bao Kai couldn't bear to watch any longer. He hid in the dark and prepared to kill Zhu Tian at the crucial moment. No matter what happens later, we'll kill him directly. Lei Lao and the others gathered together and secretly communicated. They didn't believe that Zhu Tian was so tyrannical that he could challenge the entire Huaxiao Alliance. Battle in the sea. Su Yan's figure dissipated in a blur as he charged toward the sea at an extremely fast speed. "Want to run? Do you think you can?" Zhu Tian's expression was cold as he released an even more violent radiance from the primal chaos mist. It pierced through the heavens like an overlord who ruled over the earth and was filled with destructive energy. Aha! Su Yan has already escaped before the battle even started. It seems he's been frightened by Zhu Tian's might and is terrified. Yes, Su Yan never imagined that Zhu Tian would descend upon Earth and suppress him in such a tyrannical manner. Kuan Tianyu felt carefree as he spat out a mouthful of resentment. He then said coldly, "Zhu Tian, don't give him any time to catch his breath. Suppress him on the spot." Before Kuan Tianyu could speak, the ancestral heaven's power had already surged over. It was like a curtain of darkness that covered the vast territory and covered the mountains and rivers. The moment the terrifying energy surged, everything would be destroyed. How terrifying! Zhu Tian is indeed the most powerful hero. Kuan Tianyu and the others turned pale. The black energy that was enough to cover the starry skies formed millions of waves that rushed across the boundless earth and engulfed thousands of miles of rivers and mountains. Countless vegetation exploded and mountains were pulverized. This was the power to burn the world. One had to know that Zhu Tian was at his weakest, yet he was still able to erupt with such abnormal power. "I'm afraid your blood will dirty the rivers and mountains of earth." As the dark storm swept toward Su Yin roared at the sky in the face of this unchangeable and invincible momentum. His aura became even more terrifying. His roar shook the rivers and mountains as surging golden ripples tore through the darkness. He was like a ferocious dragon that had emerged from the abyss as he charged into the sea region. "You think you're worthy of injuring me?" Zhu Tian's might was growing stronger and stronger. There was no doubt that he would be able to suppress Su Yin, but Zhu Tian still wanted to stand in the domain of absolute power and sweep through the entire Earth's lineage. As for Su Yin, he was just a stone that stood in his way. Suppress. Zhu Tian was about to enter the sea region. He was abnormally callous as his body surged with chaotic mist and a terrifying dark hurricane surged out. The energy that was originally being torn apart was also converging. This was a rather intimidating source of power. It was like a giant mushroom cloud rising into the sky and converging together. The power of the heavens was released and interweaved into a giant black hand that blotted out the sun. Zhu Tian covered the sky with a single hand. He was extremely tyrannical and wanted to suppress Su Yin with a single hand. When a hand from the heavens descended, the boundless sea region trembled. Countless seas exploded, forming a terrifying great sea that cruelly suppressed everything from above. This palm was enough to suppress all the kings. Zhu Tian is invincible. Invincible in the same generation. Invincible in the same generation. Many experts from the Ancestral Hall roared. Zhu Tian was the strongest symbol of the Ancestral Hall and represented glory and glory. But now, Zhu Tian's palm covered the sky and covered the vast sea. When it came crashing down, it even caused the stars in outer space to tremble as if they were about to fall down together. It was obvious how terrifying the power contained in this palm was. The boundless sea was swept away as the giant palm pressed down. Everything was destroyed, and the brief brilliance formed a giant canyon. Such divine power was truly tyrannical and boundless. But Su Yin had nothing to fear. He allowed the power of the heavens to be tyrannical and allowed this hand to flourish. Even the darkness couldn't restrain the god of war or suppress Su Yan's peerless power. A sun rose from the canyon and illuminated the heavens, as if it were illuminating the heavens. Under the astonished gazes of everyone, Su Yin raised his fist and punched the sky. The boundless fist wind caused the giant palm to distort and release a world-shaking power. It forcibly blasted apart the descending hand of the heavens. Come and accept your death. Su Yin was like an immortal phoenix, spreading its wings and containing the terrifying power of dragons and tigers. He soared into the 9 heavens like a dragon and tiger war god returning from the passage of time. He emitted a terrifying, murderous aura and set off raging waves in the sea region the moment he moved. You won't do. One hand is enough to suppress you. Zhu Tian was still as tyrannical as before. He stretched out his arm like raging waves beating the shore and raised tens of thousands of huge waves in the sea region. Kill. The vast sea region was no longer calm. It was an exceptionally frightening scene. When they began their battle above the sea region, the giant ocean trembled and set off terrifying tsunamis. The two experts clashed above the sea region, causing the boundless ocean and huge waves behind them. It was as if two super or powerful tsunamis were crashing against each other. Of course, compared to the auras released by the two peak experts of a younger generation, this was relatively weak. This was the collision between the golden sun and the dark sky. A great explosion erupted, and the momentum shook the heavens. Rays of light shot out and tore apart the sea region, forming world-destroying shockwaves. It was as if a dam had exploded and formed a destructive force. Chapter 729. The waves flowed in reverse and rolled towards the continent, crashing loudly against the shore. The momentum was boundless and vast. The vast ocean trembled as huge waves flowed in reverse and flooded the surrounding territories. Moreover, the impact caused the soil layer to collapse. Large black fissures were filled with seawater, forming long rivers. This kind of power was powerful enough to make people despair. Just how terrifying was this power to produce such destructive power? There were even many islands that were destroyed, torn apart by the impact of the energy waves. On the surface of the sea that was still rippling with huge waves, violent winds, and torrential rain continued to brew. If Earth hadn't evolved into a Tao star and its territory wasn't tough enough, this kind of expedition would have produced even greater destructive power. The reason Su Yin had chosen to fight in the sea was to reduce the damage on land. But no one had expected that blood would splatter out just as they exchanged blows, dyeing the shattered void red. Boundless radiance erupted from the collision of fists and palms, accompanied by blood and a deafening explosion that shook the heavens. This scene caused the spectating experts in the outer realm to clap their hands and cheer. As expected of Zhu Tian, he managed to injure Su Yin just now. Someone laughed heartily. Was there any suspense in laughing before confirming who was the one who was injured? How could Zhu Tian be the first to be injured? The answer was undoubtedly Su Yin. This trash has been injured for a long time. Since Zhu Tian is here, Su Yin won't be able to escape his fate. I actually hope that Su Yin can exchange over 100 blows with Zhu Tian. After all, this also proves Su Yan's potential. Such a character dying in Zhu Tian's hands is enough to make Xiahou and the others furious. Hee, over 100 blows? You guys think too highly of Su Yin. Su Yin has already been injured from the start of the battle. How can Su Yin withstand over 100 rounds of attacks from Zhu Tian? In my opinion, Zhu Tian will be able to suppress Su Yin immediately. The experts from the Ancestral Hall and Kuan family discussed in a relaxed manner. They had high hopes for Zhu Tian and were 100 times more confident in his invincibility. Boom! However, the battle above the sea had only just begun. Amidst the raging winds and torrential rain, super-strong hurricanes constantly swirled on the surface of the sea. The weather was so terrifying that it made one's hair stand on end. Many cultivators were so frightened that their legs couldn't move. After all, the storm created by this battle was too violent. In a vast sea region, the constellations were heaven-defying. Only these two experts continued to maintain their terrifying postures. Their killing intent soared to the skies as they clashed in the middle of the sea region. Dong dong dong. Fists and palms continued to bombard him, one punch after another, one palm after another. Blood continuously splashed out, dyeing the void red. However, the two powerhouses didn't show signs of weakening. They both swallowed the sea and released their peak battle prowess. As they raised their hands and feet, they emitted a supreme pressure. This was a battle of pure physical strength. A head-on collision was a competition of the strength of one's physique. The two powerhouses surged with blood essence and released their strength. Every strike was enough to pierce through 10,000 mountains and sink the sea. It was easy to imagine just how strong the source of power was when the two sides collided at this level. This Su Yin actually managed to withstand 3 of Zhu Tian's punches. He's not simple at all. Wrong. Zhu Tian is still in a weakened state. If Zhu Tian was at his peak, do you think Su Yin would still be alive? That's reasonable. Su Yan's defeat is already decided. Let's wait and see how Zhu Tian reaps Su Yan's head. Those watching the battle in outer space, and even those watching through space-time's secret treasures from afar, were all agitated. They were too strong. The space-time secret treasures couldn't even capture a clear image of the battle. After all, the two powerhouses erupted with terrifying light. Under the immense pressure of their opponents, they released an invincible strength and collided with each other more than 10 times. Finally, the sea region was evaporated. Massive waves flowed out in reverse, drowning even more land. The source of the collision was riddled with holes and countless black cracks. Boom! That was the scene after the final collision. The two powerhouses were sent flying by the terrifying power released by each other. The place where they collided sank, and a huge explosion occurred. This scene caused the pupils of Zhu Yongbua and the others to shrink. What's going on? Why was Zhu Tian also sent flying? Shouldn't one of Su Yan's arms have exploded? The faces of the Kuan family and Zhu Tian, who were discussing excitedly, turned gloomy. This was completely different from what they had imagined. The two powerhouses' fists were bleeding. What kind of scene was this? Could it be that Zhu Tian didn't have the upper hand and they were bleeding? How can this be? Some people's faces were extremely ugly. Could it be that an invincible genius had emerged from the burial realm? Could it be that he could defeat any young sovereign that dominated the starry skies? Zhu Tian is in a weakened state. Some people comforted themselves. If Zhu Tian wasn't in a weakened state, the one injured wouldn't be him, but Su Yin. Ha! Ha ha! Zhu Tian was laughing. His figure shrouded in the chaotic fog became more and more intense. One could vaguely see his chiseled face filled with coldness. It It also contained a peerless majesty that no one in the same generation could match. This was a gaze that looked down on all living beings in the universe. Zhu Tian's laughter made people feel confused. What are you laughing at? Su Yin was even more direct. He stared coldly at Zhu Tian and berated him. My true body hasn't come out yet, and you're already injured. What's the point of being stubborn? Zhu Tian replied to Su Yin. He had been in the chaotic fog all this time. He hadn't come out from the chaotic fog since the start of the battle. He shook his head and sighed. The burial realm has declined. In the end, it still declined. Bullshit. Su Yan's body glowed as he replied coldly. Can't you see that I haven't finished warming up? Zhu Tian, since you're here, don't think of leaving alive. Then I'll wake you up. How strong are the experts in this universe? Zhu Tian's eyes widened as soon as he finished speaking. His entire aura changed completely. He was like a demonic god that had walked out from the primal chaos. His body was tall and majestic, and his long black hair danced in the wind like a waterfall. Zhu Tian was filled with a peerless, domineering aura. He descended from a sky and walked out from the primal chaos. His aura erupted and was even more magnificent than the vast ocean. It was as though the entire sky had sunk. Boom! The entire sea region trembled. This was the descent of a vast power. It was filled with a peerless pressure that caused the sea to tremble. The entire surface of the sea was swept up with monstrous waves. Good, Zhu Tian is finally serious. Zhu Tian, who has withstood the tempering of the primal chaos, can tear Su Yin apart with his physical body. The hearts of the experts watching the battle surged. At this moment, they saw Zhu Tian's peerless domineering aura. Even the solar system couldn't suppress his radiance. He descended from a sky like an ancient star and charged towards Su Yin with boundless power. Hand over your life. It was as though millions of stars were descending and the firmament was sinking. This was a power that caused those of the same generation to tremble. Zhu Tian was truly powerful at this moment and had the demeanor of a peerless overlord. The moment he descended, just the energy storm he produced was enough to suppress the vast ocean. Xia Jingang and the others couldn't help but clench their fists. Zhu Tian was simply too terrifying. His aura erupted as though a demonic lord had descended upon the world. Boom! Zhu Tian's palm formed a fist imprint. This was a condensed manifestation of the firmament and was filled with the power to pierce through the great Tao as he bombarded Su Yin. It was hard for people to predict how terrifying this punch was. In short, heaven and earth trembled and the ocean rumbled. The entire ocean continued to boil, and when this punch finally smashed down, the entire ocean went against the current and rushed into the sky. Su Yin, you must be careful. Xia Zhe and the others were trembling because they couldn't see the battle anymore. The blue sea in front of them was engulfing the sky. As the sea region was struck, the blue sea in all directions surged upwards and rushed towards the outer realm. It's as though I'm seeing a demonic god descending to the world and tearing Su Yin apart. Kuan Tianyu and the others turned pale. This was simply too powerful. Zhu Tian was merely at the great Tao realm, but his battle prowess exceeded their understanding. He filled up the firmament, covered the earth, and blasted apart the vast ocean and sea. Ear-deafening sounds reverberated throughout the world. It was as though the weapon training pool of the heaven realm was refining a murderous weapon. Every syllable pierced through the void, describing the fury of a demonic god. Loud sounds rang out one after another, continuing to reverberate through the air. The entire sea was riddled with holes, and the vast sea region trembled violently. This didn't seem like a battle between great Tao realm cultivators, but more like a battle between gods. I can't see clearly. Some people's eyes hurt because the energy was rather glaring. However, they could see that in the sea region, there was a figure that was even more terrifying than black lightning. It was continuously charging towards Su Yin from all directions and unleashing an incomparably cold attack. In the end, It was like millions of huge waves bombarding Su Yan. This was a peerless attack that was formed in an instant, enough to tear apart a powerful enemy. It's impossible for him to block it. Many people cried out loudly. The various experts of the ancestral palace all laughed loudly, as if they could already see the scene of Su Yan being beaten up. The millions of layers of black torrents were like the power of millions of universes filling up the sea region. If they really came crashing down, they would be able to slaughter all living things. No matter how powerful a life form was, they wouldn't be able to pierce through the darkness. Look quickly. In the end, Xia Zhe and the others tried their best to open their eyes so that they could see a little more clearly. A ball of fire suddenly burned in the darkness. It was extremely resplendent, as if 10 suns had merged into one and were burning, instantly riddling the darkness with holes. There was a figure whose hair danced wildly in the air. His aura surged, and it was as if 100,000 wild dragons had drilled out of his pores, filling up the entire sea region. Kill! Su Yan roared loudly, his figure majestic and imposing. Divine force surged within him, collapsing everything. This was a war god that could tear apart the dark sky. His moves were grand and powerful, suppressing forward. He was powerful and valiant. There was no power that could stop Su Yan's footsteps. The vast darkness exploded. Buzz! Su Yan was peerlessly powerful. His body burned like an immortal furnace, shooting out beams of light that were even more terrifying than lightning as they tore apart the heavens. Do you dare take a fist for me? Su Yan's battle blood boiled and completely ignited. His palm formed a fist imprint, and a true dragon coiled around it as he bombarded the ancestral sky. Today is the day of eruption. Brothers, please vote for support. Chapter 730. Energy ripples filled the sky as the entire ocean boiled over. The vast sea region seemed to have turned into a forbidden zone for life. The two figures with blazing auras clashed violently, shaking the surroundings. Their momentum shook the heavens as energy ripples surged out. It could be said to be a peerless collision at the pinnacle. It was as though two deities were fighting each other here. The energy storm that spread out from both sides launched a world-shaking collision that shocked everyone. When Su Yan tore apart the darkness once again, the war god of a generation soared through the sky. His hair danced in the wind as he stood majestically. At this moment, Su Yan was truly standing at the peak as he brandished his peerless fist winds. His entire body was overflowing with blood essence. How valiant and tyrannical was this? He was even more terrifying than a demon god. The radiance he emitted was indestructible and filled with eternal power. Dong! This was the birth of the dragon fist, a world-shaking fist technique that originated from the dragon totem. Su Yan had cultivated on the immortal star for hundreds of years and had unearthed and developed this secret technique. Now, Su Yan's dragon fist was like the rebirth of a true dragon, like the rebirth of a supreme being. A true dragon coiled around his fist, looking down with disdain and containing the power to pierce through the heavens. The clouds in all directions exploded. Zhu Tian's heart trembled in the face of this peerless power that suppressed his peers. He was truly surprised. He had never imagined that Su Yan would erupt with such an attack, and even use such a stance to tear apart his killer move. Of course, that was all. Zhu Tian laughed coldly. His aura became even colder in the face of Su Yan's world-shaking dragon fist. Zhu Tian had been growing stronger since he had walked out of the primal chaos. At this moment, he had evolved a world-shaking seal. His fist emitted a torrential black light, and various phenomena appeared within it. There were images of various great stars in the universe being arranged. It was as though he had blasted out an ancient firmament world, emitting a power that could pierce through all living things. This was the firmament fist, a secret technique of the ancestral hall that wasn't passed down to outsiders. The two sides launched a new round of collisions. The battle had reached a new level. A vast divine might of the Great Path began to manifest. People saw the dark sky materialize. It was magnificent and terrifying. It swallowed the real dragon that Su Yin had summoned. However, the true dragon soared into the sky and roamed the great void. Its power was savage and ferocious as it shattered layers of the dark firmament. Boom! In the end, the two fists collided under the starry sky. Brilliant light shone, and the surroundings trembled. The islands exploded under the impact of the energy. How terrifying and shocking was this? It was as if the war drums of the heavens were beating. Pooh! Many of the cultivators of the Huaxia Alliance who were watching the battle from the continent were sent flying. They coughed up blood, and their faces turned pale with fright. Facing this kind of collision and the energy shockwaves that came from far away, it was difficult for them to withstand. No wonder God of War, Su Yin, wanted to bring the battle to the sea. Their battle will cause great suffering to the Huaxia Alliance. Hyanja was deeply shaken. This was too terrifying and abnormal. Just the ripples that burst forth from the battle actually possessed such powerful destructive power. There were even mountains that were flattened, as if they had been hacked apart by a killing sword. It was too sharp and astonishing. Under the starry sky, the radiance was blazing. The two great experts exploded with loud roars one after another. Both of them had been shaken by the power released by their opponents to the point where an even more abnormal and outrageous battle prowess had emerged. Su Yin, hand over your life. Zhu Tian shouted coldly. He was truly paying attention to this rising star of a declining race. His tall and majestic physique rippled with blood essence that rushed into the heavens. He was suffused with the aura of a supreme being. This was a might that was unrivaled among those of the same generation. Zhu Tian's fist once again evolved into an extremely powerful seal. It was filled with the power to suppress all things as it attacked Su Yin. You dead man, you talk a lot of nonsense. Su Yan's eyes widened as if he was glaring angrily. The Divine King opened his golden heavenly eye. His head of hair danced in the wind as a valiant and invincible aura erupted. The moment that blazing aura burst forth from Su Yan's fist, everyone had a misconception that the vast ocean had evaporated and the sun had melted. This was the solar fist. Su Yan's blood essence converged within his body. His fist was blazing to the peak. His entire body was burning like an immortal furnace, releasing surging blood essence. This was a peerless punitive expedition. Great divine abilities were frequently evolved by them, as they engaged in a fierce confrontation under the starry skies. Moreover, their speed was exceptional as they unleashed all kinds of divine abilities. The battle had truly erupted to a terrifying level. The slightest move could easily destroy a part of the world as they unleashed their most powerful attacks. What a terrifying battle! Madman Su is actually so strong. The spectators in outer space felt their hair stand on end as goosebumps appeared all over their bodies. One had to know that this was the publicly acknowledged strongest hero in the universe, the ancestral hall's Zhu Tian. However, Su Yin was actually able to contend against him. Over 100 exchanges had already passed, but the victor had yet to be decided. The sea region riddled with holes surged with all kinds of terrifying beams of light that rushed into outer space. They streaked past the eyes and bodies of the ancestral hall's Kuan family's characters, causing their expressions to turn gloomy and unsightly. Without a doubt, Su Yin was much stronger than before. Zhu Tian had undergone the primal chaos tempering and undergone an astonishing transformation. Even so, Su Yin was still able to engage in a purely physical battle with Zhu Tian. It was as if two murderous weapons were clashing. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled as deafening rumbles resounded through the starry skies. Brother Su Yin has become even stronger. He's about to become a god and is getting closer and closer to the Divine King. At the edge of the Milky Way galaxy, Tensor watched the battle through a space-time treasure and sighed. The current Su Yin was even more terrifying than before. He had obtained great opportunities during the past few years on Earth and surpassed himself, catching up to those before him. Hokuto's doyens found it hard to believe. Was this still the Su Yin of the past? He was truly worthy of being called the strongest hero. He was like a supreme being who looked down on the world and was about to step into the realm of the strongest, showing disdain for his peers. Su Yin can actually compete with Zhu Tian. Could it be that another supreme being has appeared in the cultivation world in the future? The various deities who came to watch the battle were tongue-tied. The shockwaves from their battle were too violent. Their cultivation was still in the realm of the great Tao, but they actually had such a deterrent force. The expressions of many old deities changed. They felt that it would be difficult to escape the fate of being killed if they encountered any of them. This was the strength of a young supreme being. They could defeat a deity in the realm of the great Tao. Of course, it was almost impossible for them to kill a heavenly god. Even a supreme being couldn't fight a heavenly god unless they borrowed some external means. How can this vile spawn be so strong? That's my clan's Zhu Tian. Many doyens of the ancestral hall were doubting their lives. They felt that their eyes were playing tricks on them. Zhu Tian was too strong and had the foundation to defeat a supreme being, but Su Yin could actually fight with Zhu Tian in this realm. They were both injured, but the battle was still raging. They had already fought for 300 rounds, but from the beginning until now, there was no sign of them weakening. This meant that their foundation was too shocking. What are you panicking for? Don't you know that Dao Zhu is in a weakened state? Haven't you guys noticed that Zhu Tian's aura is getting stronger and stronger? An elder of the ancestral hall rebuked. How can Su Yin be a match for my clan Zhu Tian? He doesn't even have the qualifications to be mentioned in the same breath. Just wait and see. Su Yin is about to be executed. The battle was tragic. The broken sea was still filled with great waves that surged endlessly. No matter how great a storm was, there would be a day when it would come to an end. However, this storm didn't show any signs of slowing down. Instead, it became more and more intense. All kinds of killing forces were displayed frequently, and an intense battle unfolded. There were afterimages everywhere above the sea, and the area of collision exploded. They couldn't lock onto the specific scene of the battle. The main reason was that their battle prowess had exceeded their understanding. Now that the battle had reached this stage, the point of life and death was about to be decided. Roar! Zhu Tian roared toward the sky. He was truly angered. There were over a dozen wounds on his body, all of which were left behind by Su Yin. However, the current Zhu Tian continued to climb. He was incomparably terrifying. His weakened state had finally passed, and he was like a suppressed giant dragon that had raised its head. A peerless power that could penetrate the heavens and earth surged out. It was terrifying by a level. Since the weakened state has passed, your life has also come to an end, Zhu Tian said in a cruel voice. Then, he changed the topic and said coldly, "But you're strong enough. I'll remember you as a whetstone. In the future, you'll have a seat on the path of the strongest." What seat? It was a naked humiliation. In the praise of Zhu Tian's path of growth, there was a splash left behind by Su Yin. Come and receive your death. He was cruel and malevolent. He had completely broken free from his shackles and was like an immortal monument that contained an aura of invincibility. It was so intimidating that no one dared to look at him directly. They could only look at his tall and majestic back. The sky exploded as Zhu Tian descended into the world. He stood at the strongest and looked down on Su Yin. Moreover, he had charged forward in a completely reckless manner. He wanted to use the most barbaric manner to forcefully crush Su Yin. The starry sky turned dark. The broken sea region began to tremble. Just as the boundless divine might swoop down on Su Yin, an even more terrifying figure rose from the ground. His body transformed into the universe's heavenly furnace. The myriad Daos were flames, and his body was the Tao. He was like an invincible divine furnace that had stood tall through the ages. He was filled with a suffocating pressure that wanted to shatter the sky. The myriad spirits of the universe were suppressed to the point that they couldn't breathe. Gods, devils, supremes, all of them had to kneel at his feet. That was because Su Yin stood at the peak of the great Tao and looked down on the myriad Taos. He was the supreme. How is this possible? Some people's teeth were chattering. Even the heavenly deities of the ancestral hall were trembling and couldn't breathe. That was because at this moment, Su Yin was so imposing that they wanted to prostrate themselves in worship. This was the power brought about by the great Tao. He was like the Lord of the great Tao, the crystallization of the collision of two great civilizations. It was as though an invincible being who could look down on the past and future was born. Even the great Tao was being trampled under his feet, let alone Zhu Tian's great Tao of the firmament. Everyone saw an extremely imposing figure suppressing the firmament and stepping on the great Tao. He suppressed everything and was invincible. Boom! He descended from the sky, his valiance dominating the world. The foot he raised was so wild that it seemed to have the power to crush the great Tao. Zhu Tian let out a series of angry roars. He erupted with his strongest power to resist because he felt a life-and-death crisis. He circulated all his divine abilities and secret arts, pushing his combat strength to the peak to meet Su Yan's foot that was stepping on him. Crack! However, his arm shattered as he trembled. This foot ruthlessly stomped on Zhu Tian's chest, trampling him to the ground. Su Yan lowered his head and looked down at Zhu Tian. This was a kind of contempt for the enemy. He was a devil god that could shatter heaven and earth, majestic and imposing, dominating the firmament. Chapter 731. At the pinnacle of the great Tao, he was invincible. When this person appeared, when he opened his inner Tao and fused it with his physical body, he stood in the strongest domain. Heaven and earth were about to explode, and the sun and moon were about to fall into eternal silence. In front of him, all matter lost its luster. In the heavens and earth, in the universe, Su Yin was the only one who was so powerful that it was difficult for others to see through him. He was like a majestic mountain that pressed down on people's hearts, causing their hair to stand on end. No one dared to look at him directly. Moreover, he was now stepping on the ancestral hall's Zhu Tian. Screams rang out because it was too fast, too wild, too barbaric, and too savage. Su Yin descended from the sky and crushed Zhu Tian's arms. He stepped on his chest and stomped him all the way to the bottom. He crashed into the seawater and created a terrifying abyss. Bam! Zhu Tian fell heavily to the ground. To be precise, he was stepped on by Su Yin. He let out a heart-wrenching roar. This wasn't because of pain, but because of humiliation. He would never believe that there would be a person who would stand up and trample him under his feet. Moreover, this person was a rising star of the burial realm. As the ancestral hall's Zhu Tian, this was the first time he had suffered such humiliation since the founding of the ancestral hall. Even if an accident happened, it would be a disgrace to the ancestral hall if word got out. The Huaxia Alliance was in an uproar. In fact, they weren't too surprised by this outcome. Su Yin had an invincible reputation on Earth, but they didn't understand what Zhu Tian represented in the universe. How is this possible? How can this be? How can Zhu Tian be stepped on by Su Yin? How can something so ridiculous happen? Impossible. Zhu Yanbo and the others' voices were trembling. They didn't dare to believe the scene before them. Su Yan's eruption was too sudden. He suddenly stood in the middle of this domain and looked down on Zhu Tian. Kuan Tianyu and the others were dumbfounded. How could something so ridiculous happen? From the start of the battle until now, this strong contrast left them in disbelief. They were originally full of confidence and were waiting for Su Yin to be suppressed by Zhu Tian. However, the scene before them was something they never wanted to see. The distant edge of the Milky Way galaxy was in an uproar. All the spectators were in disbelief. Zhu Tian had suffered a crushing defeat and was trampled under Su Yan's foot. They were also in disbelief. How could this be? How could Su Yin erupt with such power? Even Bamboo Moon was dumbfounded. She knew very well that Su Yin hadn't cultivated for long, so it was very difficult for him to compete with Zhu Tian. But now, with Su Yan's combat strength, Bamboo Moon suddenly saw a peerless god of war beginning to rise for the future. The inheritance of the immortal planet and the test of the fifth stage had been of great help to Su Yan. He had surpassed himself and surpassed his previous self. He had truly completed a super powerful transformation, bridging the gap between him and the young paragons of the various peak races. In fact, in the process of returning, the clash between the two civilizations made Su Yan even stronger. He stood in an absolutely majestic domain, looking down at his opponent and coldly saying, "Ancestral Palace, Zhu Tian. That's all you've got. Do you think you've won?" However, Zhu Tian quickly recovered from his momentary depression. His eyes were cold again as he stared at Su Yan without any fear. Even though he was being trampled under Su Yan's foot, Zhu Tian still had absolute confidence and confidence. Use whatever moves you have. In short, you can't leave here alive today. This was Su Yan's reply, which made Zhu Tian laugh angrily. You want to fight with your back to the wall and walk on the path of glory in a hopeless situation? Su Yan, oh Su Yan, you didn't pick a weakness. You just had to completely infuriate me. Today, I'll make you pay a heavy price. Boom! Zhu Tian's shattered body suddenly became scorching hot, as if a great explosion had taken place. Oh no, there's an unforeseen event. Everyone, get ready. Once Su Yan is no match for him, we'll attack together and kill Zhu Tian. Lei Lao gave the order very decisively. They used all their weapons and would use the cruelest means to dismember the ancestral palace. If Lei Lao's order was transmitted to the universe, who knew what kind of uproar it would cause? Even Zhu Tian dared to scheme and ambush him, and even attack him together. If this were to spread out, it would cause a huge commotion. Su Yan's eyes narrowed. Even someone as strong as him felt a fatal threat standing in this domain. His figure quickly blurred. Su Yan was extremely decisive and began to retreat rapidly. However, Zhu Tian's killer move was still too terrifying. The mysterious patterns on his forehead were burning, and the patterns evaporated into a divine mist. They quickly combined and evolved into an ancient gate, as magnificent as the gate of a divine realm. It emitted an inexplicable aura that could suppress billions of creatures, making even the heavenly gods a little nervous. Kill him! Zhu Yanbo roared in shame and anger. He had to crush Zhu Tian with absolute strength to reduce the impact on Zhu Tian's reputation. Su Yan's terrifying body was trembling. Even though he had unleashed the strongest strength of his body, he was still suppressed by the terrifying fluctuations from Zhu Tian's forehead. His body trembled, and his bones were about to explode. Su Yan's eyes widened in anger. What kind of power was this? Zhu Tian shouldn't be able to control this kind of energy matter. I'll let you know how strong Zhu Tian is. This generation's Zhu Tian looked up to the sky and laughed like a cruel demon. His forehead was burning with the radiance of the immortal Tao, emitting a boundless source of terror. It was as if the source of the universe's apocalypse was awakening. An extremely majestic figure was faintly standing from his forehead. Vaguely, Su Yan saw in Zhu Tian engulfing the universe. His boundless divine might flooded one star region after another, and even the Almighties had to prostrate before him. Roar! Su Yan didn't have time to think as a peerless crisis struck. He unleashed his strongest state in a brief moment of light and launched the Big Dipper fist at the supreme suppression from Zhu Tian's forehead. Bam! However, it was obvious that Su Yan was at a disadvantage in this collision. The Big Dipper fist couldn't block it, and he was sent flying. His fist was bleeding, and even his bones were shattered. Very good. You managed to withstand a blow. Not bad, but you're still a long way from becoming a supreme. Zhu Tian let out a hollow laugh as he rose to his feet. Under the astounded gaze of the crowd, the ancient seal on his forehead emitted wisps of immortal light that encapsulated Zhu Tian's flesh. His shattered flesh began to recover. What kind of evil art is this? Elder Lei and the others were all scared stiff. How could there be such a ridiculous secret technique in this world that could regenerate a severed arm in such a short amount of time? Could it be? The pupils of the Kunkang region suddenly shrank, and a chill ran down their spines. The mark between Zhu Tian's eyebrows was the inheritance mark of the ancestral hall's Zhu Tian. Anyone who obtained the mark would definitely become the new leader of the ancestral hall. The mark had been passed down for a long time. It was too ancient and mysterious. After all, the Kunkang region belonged to the lineage of the Kunkang region. They knew very well that the mark played a crucial role in the destruction of the Kunkang region. Now that the mark had shown its power and been captured by the Kunkang region, it must be closely related to Zhu Tian's mark for the ancestral hall to become one of the greatest reapers of the chaos ruins. Su Yan's face turned solemn. Could this mark be so abnormal that it could kill a supreme? This isn't your power. Why do you have to be so arrogant? Su Yan sneered. You want to kill me? Do you think you're qualified? Qualifications are earned through killing. What will you be if I kill you? You won't even be qualified to be reduced to ashes. Zhu Tian shouted coldly, as if his sore spot had been poked. Finally, he pounced forward. The ancient and mysterious mark between his eyebrows awakened once more, and all kinds of immortal mist rose. The Zhu Tian's mark was extremely mysterious. If one looked at it, they would see a supreme existence that wanted to cross the cycle of reincarnation and come to this world. Just the unfathomable pressure alone was unbearable because it carried the pressure of time, and even great figures were apprehensive. Su Yan roared and used all kinds of secret techniques to resist the suppression of the mysterious mark. At the same time, he carefully sensed the power of the mysterious mark, thinking of a way to break it. Even the Zhu Tian's mark has been struck out, but it can't erase Su Yan in a short time. Kuan Tianyu's eyes flashed with a trace of savagery. This was too strong. Su Yan was like a divine furnace in the universe, perfect and flawless. His true strength was hard to believe. But even if Su Yan grasped such great strength, he was still suppressed by the Zhu Tian's mark and suffered damage. Hand over your life. In the end, Zhu Tian's physical body recovered its strength. He erupted with the Zhu Tian's mark, and his battle strength became even more terrifying. The purgatory world was born, and his peak strength was activated. He began to attack Su Yan from all directions. Kill! Su Yan was also enraged. His battle prowess surged to the peak, and he became even more terrifying and shocking. He was like a divine king who carried the sea of chaos on his back. His roar shattered the darkness, and he once again clashed with Zhu Tian. But anyone could see that the Zhu Tian's mark was suppressing Su Yan, causing Su Yan's battle strength to suffer a great loss. If this continued, it would be really dangerous. Kiki, you can't do it. I'll send you on your way. Zhu Tian attacked fiercely again. His peak strength, together with the Zhu Tian's mark, surged out in unison. It was as if a blurry, immortal great world was constructed, filled with a brutal aura that could kill kings. If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. In the end, Su Yan let out a ferocious roar. Since things had come to this, he had to go all out. Wasn't it just using external means? Then let's see whose external means were stronger. This was Earth. How could an outsider be in charge? When the world-destroying power was about to envelop Su Yan, when Lei Lao, Bao Kai, and the others rushed over, want to gang up on Zhu Tian, all of a sudden, the entire Earth was faintly rumbling. This was because the rumbling was accompanied by a blurry imprint that had appeared on Su Yan's forehead. This blurry mark was like the crystallization of ancient and modern legacies. It was a brand new mark born from the collision of the immortal planet and Earth. It carried the heavens, the myriad Tao, and the hope of the buried realm. Originally, Su Yan was prepared to use this mark to trigger the power of Earth and kill Zhu Tian. But Su Yan didn't expect this at all. The moment this brand new imprint appeared, it was as though it had turned into a huge cosmic whirlpool, causing Zhu Tian to let out a painful roar. This was because the Zhu Tian imprint between his eyebrows was distorting as strands of immortal Tao essence drifted out and gathered into the blurry imprint between Su Yan's eyebrows. What was this?